Hello, can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me wonderfully and clear?
Yeah.
Wonderful. You may all now unmute. I think I had you all muted, so I wouldn't have any reception. I'm going to explain the rules quickly, and I want to thank you all for taking place in the Hippy Dippy Rumble, which will decide who will be challenging for the title next Friday. I want to thank all these new creators who have never been in a Hippy Dippy event before for trying this for the first time. I'm going to put on screen for everybody watching at home the roster for tonight's debate. We have stars like Actual Jate, Denims, CTV, Christy Winters, PrimeCayes, KOE Nation, DemonMama, Actual Justice Warrior, and I, Hypocrite. We also have 3 special guests which have not been released today. One is a TikToker, one is a Twitch streamer, and one is a YouTuber. So we have a diverse cast of stars from many platforms to host the biggest event we've ever had on this channel. We already are breaking records for viewer counts. We are already going higher than we have before. And of course, the hype is building for next week's main event. And how we're going to decide tonight who will be challenging that person. So, I will let everybody have a short 10-second introduction because we're running a tight ship here as people are kicked off and brought on through it. You have 10 seconds to say who you are, where they can find you. We'll move on to the next person. We're going to start up top on the top left-hand corner with Actual Jake. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Actual Jake. You can find me at Actual Jake on Twitch, and we talk politics, and sometimes chat makes me wear a corn suit. That's it.
Wonderful. Corn Jake. Now, I'm going to actually introduce Phil KOE, who's currently muted on Whereby.
Hooray! Welcome, everyone. My name is Phil KOE, the winner of the first ever Dylan Burns Royal Rumble, and you can find me at KOE Nation on Twitch and YouTube, and it is a pleasure to be with all you beautiful people.
Thank you very much. Throwing it over to Denims. Denims is muted. Throwing it over to Critically Thinking Veteran. Critically Thinking Veteran is muted. Throwing it over to Christy Winters.
Hi, I'm Christy Winters, and if you know me, it's probably because I make some YouTube videos. You can check it out on my channel. I do a Sunday live show for an hour. Come by. Done.
Throwing it over to PrimeCayes.
Hello, my name is PrimeCayes. I run a panel show, similar, but not quite as good as Hippy Dippy. Come over and check it out.
Wonderful. Throwing it over to Sean, who is muted on Whereby.
Oh, I'm Sean. You find me at Actual Justice Warrior on YouTube, and I'm on Twitter somewhere.
Wonderful. He's on Twitter somewhere. Now over to CTV.
Hey, this is your man, Critically Thinking Veteran, coming in from the Wolf's Den. I run the Wolf Pack over here. We have a great group of people. Feel free to come find us on the channel, twitch.tv/Critically Thinking Veteran.
Okay, and now over to Denims.
I have the wrong mic set up, so do you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Okay, great. Yes, I'm Denims. I run a stream. I talk about politics. I'm a sock dem. That's it.
Wonderful. Let me quickly lay down the rules. Every once in a while, a round will end. And when that round ends, we will post a poll in chat. And that poll in chat will decide who gets to stay and who gets to go. One person will be booted out and another person will come to replace them. This will happen through 12 different people. Once it's all done, there'll be one person left. And whoever that one person is will be the person challenging for the title next Friday. For rules about conduct, don't violate anything that is against terms of service on either YouTube or Twitch. If you do, it could get either me or the person I'm partnering with today, ModernDayDebates, James, taken down. And we would both not like to lose our jobs and homes. So please don't make us homeless. Other than that, if you are having a hard time getting into a discussion because it's too hectic, you can raise your hand. I'll try to write your name down and we'll try to bring it over to you eventually. But this is a hectic event. This is a rumble. With rumble in the name, it's going to be, you kind of have to make it on your own. I'm not here to save you. Everyone's on their own. All of your goal is to be the last person standing. So I'm not here to be your friend. I'm just here to keep a little bit of law and order, which I guess we can all appreciate, right? Wonderful. So, with that being said, we have 10 minutes until the first entrant next round. So, the first topic is the filibuster. Should it be kept? Should it not? Thrown up to the room, impress the people, and you may stay till next round. You may begin.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Talking
not.
filibuster.
Filibuster should
Talking
not.
filibuster. Go back to talking filibuster. It's the best way to
Okay.
keep going.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Brian, I can out filibuster you any day. My name is Phil. I'll always out filibuster.
Okay.
I'll wait for Dylan's ruling.
Okay. So, even though it's about the filibuster, let's try to hear each other. Begin one person at a time, please.
So I think the filibuster should absolutely end. It's been it's held back our democracy. Before it was only used only occasionally for certain moments, oftentimes against anti-lynching laws. But now it's being used all the time. Just anytime that one party wants to stop another party from making any progress in this country, they use the filibuster, right? To this point where people think that to pass laws within this country, you need 60 votes in the Senate. That is not the case. That is not the case. You need 51, right? But it's been used so often. Now the news media doesn't even bother correcting themselves here, right? So no, it's been an anchor on our democracy. Get rid of it.
If you
It is
can't
much
get 60
easier.
votes, if you really can't get 60 votes, then maybe the bill you're putting forward just ain't that important to people.
No, that's not the way the Senate works. That's not the way the Senate works.
You're talking to someone who puts the
fact
bill
is-
in filibuster here, so I must say,
Yes.
this is the last mechanism that we have.
You put the
in
busted
Congress.
in frame
Yes,
rate too.
But no, this is
Jesus Christ, my guy.
sometimes my
I know this ain't
extremeness
coming
is
from the
so
guy
much-
wearing a corn hat, right?
I mean,
know
yes, yes.
That took like 2 seconds, wolf pack guy.
Yeah,
Holy
I must
shit.
say,
Top Gun hat.
Phil only needs 10 frames per second. Kick your ass, buddy. all right? So-
Yes, thank you, sir. And Prime, it's finally good to finally meet you in open battle, sir. It's marvelous. But I will say, the filibuster, there is no other mechanism that forces compromise between both sides of the aisle. Once
Have you
that's
considered
gone, there
Republicans
is
having a
nothing
good
left.
argument
There
once?
is nothing left.
No,
once
Like,
that
wait,
is
hold
gone.
on, wait.
And
No,
I-
no, 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 no.
Okay,
You
okay,
get
okay,
there.
Let's
wait,
talk
wait,
about
wait,
let's
wait,
talk
wait,
about
wait.
procedures,
You
right?
We gotta let
Because-
one person talk at a time, okay?
Yes.
I
Phil,
was
please
going
finish.
Phil had his chance.
Once you get there, folks, all you will have is the slimmest margin political sacred cows get pushed through, and push through those sacred cows they shall, folks. We're talking about things like, well, it could affect the right on gun control now, but what happens when the shoe's on the other foot? What are you going to
This is
do
a
when you
perfect
make that
example of
trap for
filibustering.
yourself?
Thank you. This is the
Yes.
problem with our democracy. It keeps us from actually having these discussions that we need, right? One person simply takes up all the time, right? Puts a roadblock in the way of actual legislation.
What are you
actual
going to
work
do when the
being
shoe's
done,
on
right?
the other
We
So
don't
foot?
have
let's
to.
why don't we
People
try
that you
Christie?
don't
Why don't we
like
try
publicly
Christie?
push
You had a
through.
chance.
okay,
Hold
okay,
on,
okay,
hold on. I'm
wait,
gonna
wait,
let
okay,
him
okay,
finish
okay, okay, okay.
Well,
because
go ahead.
this is
Okay.
a topic that I do care about and know about. So here's the case: we don't have to have an either or with no filibuster or a full filibuster. We can go back to the talking filibuster, which is when people talked until they couldn't anymore, and then we had the votes. I don't mind people having a chance to air their oppositions to a bill. That's fine, and there should be some power within the minority in terms of having their voice. But 40 senators should not be able to stop what the country wants to do. That is completely ridiculous. However,
Christine
it
makes a
is
great
easier
point.
procedurally to go back to a talking filibuster than it would be to end it. So tactically and politically, talking filibuster is our first step. You do that, and then we can have a conversation about the rest of it.
So I
You
agree
make
with
an
you there. I
excellent
absolutely
point,
agree with
because
you.
then
No,
Bill
I'm going
KOE would have to be
absolutely
elected to
agree
the
with you
Senate,
there,
because
that
I
a
can
talking
talk for
filibuster
21
makes a lot of
hours.
sense. So talking filibuster makes a lot of sense. Like you see from Phil
Go to
KOE's
Sean next.
work right here, it's actually an effective tactic. I can see that, but like we have to have still
Thank you, sir.
rules
I
in
agree.
place even within that, right?
Yeah, but the
Because
reality
I can
is
see
that
them
this
like and we have to, for instance, like one senator could do a talking filibuster and not like being replaced by another and doing a whole train. Like that would be my opinion on that, but we'd have to limit the impact of the filibuster.
Yeah, I mean,
that
instead
way.
of talking filibuster, you'd have to get up there and do the speaking. We
Yeah.
saw in Texas where a woman was trying to stop abortion, attacks on abortion
Yeah.
going through. Did it right? That's fine. I think that those actually, in some ways, it gets people interested in what the political event is. But to stop a bill that 75% of the people want or 80% of the people want because 40 senators say no. That's not democracy. That's
You
not
say
not
75
democracy.
people say it.
Wait, I
The
said,
math
wait,
is
wait,
already
wait,
wrong.
be clear.
Been here or what?
Stop. Okay, I said next was Sean. Sean, you're next.
Sweet. So, like, the case against the filibuster that you're making is that it delays democracy, but the purpose of the Senate is so that the United States federal government is not restricted to the confines of a democracy. The entire point of it is so that small states have equal representation in one body. So if you're saying we need to get rid of the filibuster for democratic reasons, that doesn't make any sense. Also, on top of that, there are plenty of procedural things in our Constitution that require a greater than majority vote. You need a 2/3 majority to ratify treaties, 2/3 majority to declare war. All of this is because our government is specifically designed not to be a democracy. It's specifically designed not to be subject to the whims of the majority. So the filibuster, the legislative filibuster, you're like, oh, well, this amount of percentage of people want a certain bill. Well, that's not what the Senate is designed for. It's specifically designed to address that. That's why there's no.
But on the other side of that, but on the other side,
rule. It's not the Constitution.
I'll say it again.
I have one sentence left. Your reasons for getting rid of the Senate filibuster are more of a justification of getting rid of the Senate than the procedural thing that makes the Senate function.
Let's get rid of the Senate. I would agree. But no, the problem is, like, no, you're absolutely correct, Sean. You're absolutely correct when you say that we have things within our government, right, that are designed for larger than a simple majority. You're absolutely correct, right? But filibuster wasn't one of those things, right? That was added in later. And then beyond that, of course,
yeah, right. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because the reality is that the reason why there was a breakdown is because there was an inherent flaw in the Constitution.
We gotta let
you
Frank
address the actual
tyranny of the minority. That's exactly what's happening here with
right.
the
Don't address the
tyranny of the minority. So I understand that, like, but the problem is it's taken over to the point where to do simple business, the simple business of the country simply cannot get done.
Right, because
it happened under Obama,
to keep
Trump,
it at the appropriate
and now
level
it's going to
possible.
happen under Biden. I actually like to get something done in this country. Go ahead, CTV.
Well, then start understanding civics and start there, right? And you're right. To begin with, the filibuster wasn't supposed to be what it has become today, but the reason why is because a lot of this federalization and centralization of fucking power, and our system was never designed to do that from the fucking start. So then when you start passing legislation at the federal level, and Christy, your numbers are wrong to begin with. You say 75 to 80%, but that would
I'm
already...
talking about any hypothetical bill.
Yeah, you say 75 to 80%, but the reality is that 60%,
like gun control,
60 votes is what's needed. That's 60 fucking percent, right? So 60% is all it's needed, not 75 or 80. Right, so then
but we're talking about very popular bills that are being held up by a
exactly.
really small minority.
75 to 80, he would have more than 60. What do you not understand about the math?
Well, you don't understand how the Senate works. The Senate isn't based on the population. Therefore, the Senate is inherently unrepresentative when it comes to a population.
It's because of the inherent corruption.
Referee interference.
There are more rural and white areas are overrepresented.
Denims has been
now we're gonna go over to Jake and then Denims.
I had my hand up before her. I'm way faster at hand moving. It's interesting to me that you'd be like, the tyranny of the majority, considering how you guys like to repress minority votes in general, which is the reason that filibustering is even a problem, because we have an entire system. Look at Georgia recently. Georgia flips blue. You guys freak out. And instead of just like, get this, maybe just being appealing to a bunch of people, maybe being more popular, having good opinions, instead you just try to like weasel your fucking way like little tiny snaky slugs and try to get more, or not more votes, fewer black votes, let's be real, fewer minority votes in general. If you were, hey, don't fucking wolf pack your head at me, boy. If you were for if you were interested in having any sort of actual reasonable system in general, you would allow everybody, because of course you are the party of freedom, to let everybody vote in the easiest possible way with shade, with water. No, you fucking don't. You want everybody to vote for the fucking idea. You can't let them have water in line. You got to make sure that they...
And integrity in elections is important.
Stop. Okay, we're throwing it over to Denims. We have 1 minute left in the round. Go Denims.
Okay, first of all, I got a couple points. First of all, we're failing to recognize that a majority in the Senate is not equivalent to a majority of the American population. The majority of the American population is, for example, in favor of legalizing weed. We can barely get a couple of senators who are like, yeah, I agree. So the majority in the general population has nothing to do with the majority in the Senate. Second of all, it's so funny that conservatives are always complaining about how the government can never get anything done, but they're always in favor of shit that helps the government not get anything done, like filibustering.
Right,
I yield my time.
And that's where a lot of these issues should have been kept at state levels, but because there's been a push ever since the introduction of the 14th Amendment into the Constitution.
You think we should have kept slavery at the state level?
is why the system
question.
is turned to the way that it is, right?
Just
mean
a-
white men
Now, you
don't
don't
want
understand in
everything to
history,
fight themselves.
right?
We
Whoa,
have
whoa,
to
whoa,
have
whoa,
the
whoa,
people
whoa,
that
whoa,
stand
whoa,
other
whoa,
people.
Leave it up to the states to handle
The
bigotry.
framework changed to the
They have a
Constitution.
good, they have a
okay?
good
That's
path.
why the
of handling
14th Amendment
bigotry.
not only
They have a
introduced
good, no,
the
try it.
10
man.
protection and the
We've seen
federalization,
it. We've
but it
seen it.
also
The
introduced
states are
Eight,
terrible handling
voting
anything
rights,
bigotry.
and then we
That's
had
why you
to
have to go
amend
to the federal level
amendment
because
in
the
order to
states
get
are
to
so
federal
terrible.
One.
I've been asking
Stop.
for more.
Done.
Stop.
Round over.
There you go.
Stop. Okay.
I mean,
So-
that's it. We can't conclude.
Give me a second. So that round was fast, wasn't it? That was the 10-second round. The rest will be 20 from now on. This one was the weed out the weak. Okay, the weak among you who can't deal with this. Okay, so there is a poll in chat. Everybody can go take this, post it in their own communities, post it wherever, and see who can win this. Okay.
Well,
The
I
poll
gotta
is in
say,
chat.
honestly, I gotta say, my neighbors are already banging on the floors because I'm shouting so loud. So y'all can vote for me. It's like going on 2:30 in the morning
Wait,
here.
can you post that again?
Yeah, it's in the
In your
chat. I'll
Yeah,
post
in
it
your
again.
chat. I accidentally closed your chat.
So you're throwing yourself over the top rope and
Wow. Wow. You know what,
Can you
Christy?
hear the banging?
I respect it. I respect it, Christy. I respect it.
Site can't be reached.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
So we're voting who to keep, correct? Right?
Yes, who to keep.
No. Hmm.
I
Which
can't.
is obviously Phil KOE. Come on,
Yeah,
folks, you know what the right
Phil's
thing is.
amazing. I like Phil a lot. So I'm
Oh,
gonna
thank
say
you.
that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
He's a good guy.
And in the interim, if I may, there was something I couldn't get in at the beginning, but folks, I think I need to say it here since we are at a Royal Rumble. Are you ready, folks? We are here at the Dylan Burns Hippy Dippy
I feel like
Podcast
this
Yeah.
is,
Royal
this is
Rumble.
messing up
The-
the spacing
looks-
of the show if we're doing the
Is
intro
anyone else
10
having
minutes
trouble
It
into
looks
with
it.
like-
that site?
It looks like the poll's broken, by the way.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
get ready to
broken.
rumble.
The poll's broken?
Yeah, it looks like the
Okay,
poll's
okay,
broken. Nobody
okay,
can get in.
I had
Okay.
to get that in.
Let's,
man.
Try
Don't
straw
worry.
poll.
Okay,
I
I'll
was,
have
like,
my
holding
mods
my
fix
breath.
that. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
because Christy has thrown herself over the top rope, and so
my neighbors
Christy,
did.
hey,
My
I'm
neighbors did.
happy to have you on, Christy, veteran of
If
the
you do it
skeptic
at a
era.
reasonable hour, yeah, it'd be great. But
Yeah.
You have a
Christy,
nice
it was
day,
nice,
Christy. Thanks
yeah,
coming
man.
on.
good to see you.
Wow, didn't even get to do the ending. Hunter Avallone has entered. I'm gonna ask them to turn their camera on. But the next round, which is going to be 20 minutes, is on the idea of big tech censorship. The idea that big tech is either censoring conservatives, liberals, etc. This topic will be going on for 40 minutes. So don't worry, if you didn't get to speak on the last topic, that won't be the same going forward. Just needed to weed out the week at the beginning. Okay, Hunter, if you can get your camera on.
I'm working on it. I apologize.
No problem, but you all may begin. You have about 20 minutes.
So what's the subject again? Big tech
Big
and
tech
censorship.
censorship.
Okay, yeah. Big tech has had a big tech at first was very well loved within the general society, our general community, especially among liberals. Right, we used to love the possibility that big tech could provide us, and still, like technology can do so many things. It connected us in so many different ways, right? But the problem is the consolidation. That's the real problem because if there's so many companies, if there was a plethora of companies that we could choose from, then the fact that you were censored on any individual platform wouldn't have an impact, right? But YouTube is the big king when it comes to video, right? Twitch is the big king when it comes to streaming specifically. Right, and if you're censored on these individual platforms, including Facebook and whatever, right, just by a handful of individuals can decide they want you gone, and you're gone. That's it. You're done, right? And and if you're on the left like me, you realize these companies aren't really actually progressive. I mean, they'll make the signals, right? They'll do like the black squares for Black Lives Matter or something like that. But beyond that, when you actually see their practices, they fail every single time. So I say that to handle big tech and censorship, one of the best ways we could actually do is maybe either break them up or encourage more entrance into the market.
Wonderful. Next, we're gonna go to Actual Jay.
Yeah, I like how usually the right likes to whine about this, and they're like, we're getting banned because I can't say insensitive things about Asian people, or I can't make gay jokes about I forget that guy, Carlos Maza or something. And they're like, we can't do it. But really, you're bitching about capitalism and you don't even realize it. You've allowed these people to run rampant and have control over all these things. And then when it happens to you, do you know what I hear from right-wing people? We should start a public square, a public government-funded Twitter. You guys are such fucking hypocrites all the time. Are you absolutely serious
Well, this one
right
already
now?
is publicly funded with the bandwidth that it consumes. That's all taxpayers subsidized. We basically do like.
Oh, okay. Then I guess we're gonna make Bitcoin public, bro.
It's a completely free market.
We're going by
It's a little cute to
bandwidth?
Call it that.
We're going by
They can't
bandwidth?
even go through a single day's worth of business.
Did you
without
say words that
massive
make
amounts of
these don't make sense?
taxpayer-funded,
These things you're just
taxpayer-subsidized bandwidth?
you're just those weren't words
Sorry,
that made
man,
sense. Those were just things that you said aloud.
No, that's actually true. Go look it up, folks. The bandwidth
No, I mean,
that these
just like-
big tech companies use, it's all taxpayers subsidized. So for them to call themselves free market is more than a little
Okay, so
cute.
then are you for
It
or
was
against?
your
Wait, hold on,
tax
no.
dollars
Are you for
that
or
built
against
these
free?
places that
No. Are you
created the
against?
internet that we use.
Are you? Do you
And
agree
now
that
your
food should?
opinions
Do you agree,
have
Phil?
been said
Hey, just
on the
yelling like
internet
Alex
that
Jones
you
isn't going to do
are
anything.
Okay,
I'm immune to you.
Okay. So let's
You
be
are-
clear. Let's not yell to get our points over other people.
that's
as much
just
as I
the
want to have
worst.
fun
It's
here.
the best
Right. Well,
way.
you know,
somebody
Okay.
would hear
It's his personality, though.
Hey,
We all need to hear the truth.
The best
Dylan,
way
you moved and
will
it's
be.
bothering me.
What was second?
Come back.
See, then we end up
I am
with a low
here.
like
So-
this
Yeah, you were
Jake.
right next to me. It was
What I
bad.
think you were
Question your
trying to do-
judgment.
So, Phil, what I think you were trying to say, right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I think you're trying to say is that these are taxpayer funded, right? And so maybe they should be treated like utilities, right? Or maybe
much
there are
closer to a
platforms
utility
that
than a
become
platform.
public forums, not simply private platforms, and then
It's
should be
kind of like
judged
MCI
to be
dropping
one
your
that.
call
Wait,
because they don't
okay,
like the
let's-
content.
MCI,
Okay, come on.
that's really old.
I did date myself a little bit there.
Yeah, just a little bit there, but yeah. So is that what you're trying to say? Is that instead of treating these as private platforms that can decide their own rules and how they treat censorship, instead they should be public platforms and the First Amendment should count, and that the free speech should not be stifled? Is that what you're trying to say?
That's where I'm starting to get at, because it was people who had these awful opinions that are being damned off the internet. Their tax dollars help build the internet too. Now, strangely enough, Poland actually introduced a very good law. I want you to hear this out. That I actually like it just because it's so clean. I know, actual Jake. When you see yourself on the photo, they're like, God, I'm wearing cord. I'm so silly. I would laugh too.
You want my bank account?
When, please. I'll
This
take
is
it.
this is a lucrative corn for some reason. They fucking love it. That wasn't my choice.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
All right, can we move the
I'll-
conversation
That's
into
a
more?
weird
What
Yeah,
I'm saying,
guys, why
Matt,
don't-
is-
Okay.
Hey, why don't-
He's talking about
Slow this down for a
Poland. I don't
second.
know.
Okay, let's slow this down for a
Everybody
second.
go.
Wait.
This is
Let's slow this down.
unimaginary that you
Speech
can't
any
possibly
more than the
verify in
government.
this conversation.
Okay, give me a second. Let's just be clear. Going forward, when I'm speaking, everybody else is supposed to shut down because my job is to moderate. Now, Hunter just entered, so I'm going to throw it over to Hunter for a second so he can give his take on the view. Okay?
Can everyone
is my
see
camera
Hunter?
on,
I don't
everybody?
see
The
Hunter.
camera
I
is
see the
not
camera.
on. No, it is not.
Are you using
What?
OBS?
I'm so confused.
We
How are
cannot
people?
see you.
Your camera's probably being used by another.
It's big tech
program, like
censorship,
your OBS.
obviously.
So, there you go.
So, actual Jake, you were talking. You had your
Censorship.
you had
Yeah,
your
it's out for me.
hand
I did.
raised. I'll throw it back over to you once you get your camera fixed. Actual
Okay.
Jake.
Oh, okay. Well, he talked about subsidies, and if you pay a lots of taxes or something, it's now public or something, which is weird because I know right wingers don't want felons to be able to vote because they do pay taxes as well.
I
But that's
think they
okay.
should.
But beyond
Let's
that,
I want to hear him talk.
Beyond that, the specific thing you said was very interesting and also kind of dumb if you want to maintain your
This
right
guy
wing
come from the
status
guy
here.
wearing a corn hat. Got it.
Yes, it is dumb, and I
Go
can.
ahead,
It's weird
continue.
how
Don't
you
get
know what this was
distracted.
all.
Okay,
This
I
is
realize
brain.
I'm sexy, but don't get distracted.
There's brain in there.
Go
Anyway,
ahead.
so I'm going to. You have to calm
Corn.
down, Wolfie.
Oh Jesus! Come on, corn guy.
You're
Okay,
you're
so
the
as
one
you're the one
Don't let him
interrupting.
throw you off.
Okay,
Don't let him throw you
so
off.
as you said subsidies, it's very interesting you say that. So do you also believe that because like food, for instance, is incredibly subsidized by the U.S. markets, so that we make sure that food prices stay low for the general populace? Do you believe that food should be freely given to anyone that needs it, and hunger should be eradicated in the United States just because we heavily subsidize the food market? Because
I would love
fucking
for that to be the
agree,
case.
comrade.
I would love for that to be the case. I've actually, it is a tragedy that there's so many hungry people. I've actually volunteered at a soup kitchen before, just because it is tragic that we have a state that, when you can make so much food, there should not be people that are hungry.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, I do donate to those types of
Good.
things.
Phil-based.
I've ceased charitable giving for the time being for different reasons, and I'll get into that later. But yes, I do agree that if you can at all help people that are hungry, you absolutely should. I'm a farmer by profession, actually, and yes,
So was my grandpappy.
God bless
Good to
them.
see
God
me.
bless them.
Yeah, we
Salt
can
to
see
the
you
earth,
now.
folks. They all of them.
Finally. I don't know what the hell
Well,
is wrong with that.
welcome to the show, Hunter Avallone. Welcome.
Thank you. Whoever, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I was looking at my recording software, so I didn't actually see who said that.
That was
Okay.
still KOE.
So Sean was raising their hand before, so I want to get to Sean, and then Hunter just got in here.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty weird for us to start a debate on tech censorship without defining our terms. It's like if you're talking about whether or not the issue with big tech is that they're suppressing certain ideological viewpoints, I think that's not like arguable. Like you look at their justifications for banning certain people, and you can compare those justifications to how they treat other people in similar situations, and they're not equivalent. But whether or not this is a First Amendment violation is completely like that's one category of argument. The issue that I have with big tech is right now they are operating under unlimited liability protection based on the concept that they cannot regulate the content on their platform, which is why they asked for that carve out in Section 230. However, they are regulating content on their platform. They're saying that they do have the ability to do this now. So should we be providing them with an unfair advantage over, let's say, the New York Times, who's responsible for the content that they publish, compared to like big tech? Like the Huffington Post draws in a lot of people, bloggers. This is how their old model used to work. And they all used to contribute to their platform. But the Huffington Post, since it was a media outlet, was responsible for anything libelous or slanderous that they published. But big tech is not responsible in the same way, even though they clearly curate, they clearly play favorites, they clearly hire fact checkers to label certain content, except they're like, oh, we do all this, but we shouldn't be held responsible for any of the things like any other company who acts in similar manners. That's the issue I have with big tech censorship.
Well, so are you asking for more censorship?
Well, I'm asking for I'm asking for what, like, there's delineations in the conversation. Like actual Jake goes off on like, oh, you don't believe in freedom and blah blah blah. It's not that I don't believe private companies should be able to do whatever they want. It's that I believe in equal application of the law, and certain companies acting in similar ways to big tech do not have the liability protections that they have.
I didn't say you weren't for freedom. I said you claim to be the party of freedom, and then when it comes to it, you fail.
So effectively the same thing.
So am I able to cut in here now? Because basically,
no.
Yes.
Because basically everything
distinction without a difference.
Yeah, just everything here that Slippery Sean just said is just completely wrong, and also based on like huge presuppositions. It's really, really embarrassing. Basically, I mean, where do we want to start? First of all, you say there's clear evidence that this is happening, blah, blah, blah. No, there's not actually. If you look at the data and you look at the studies that there's the countless different research that has been done on this subject, you will see that there's actually an overwhelming consensus that conservative content thrives on virtually every social media platform. Now, am I saying conservatives are never banned on social media? Absolutely not. Conservatives.
Donald Trump was censored on election night, dude. Like, I'm sorry.
Yes,
like,
conservatives.
it was one way.
Steal away.
He was inciting violence. That's why he was
election night. No, he was. He said he didn't think he
I would
lost
like to hear him finish.
Just gone up. Yo,
Let
Phil,
him
chill,
finish
buddy.
his point.
I know you got the alcohol there. Maybe you should take a little break on that.
Oh, this is Cavassier 21, sir. It must be sipped and enjoyed. You don't knock it back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
gotcha.
right.
Gotcha. But yeah, also with Section 230, there's a big misunderstanding here with the platform versus publisher talk. Publishers verify every single thing that they publish. The New York Times verifies, they check everything that goes out, and then they say, yes, I verify that, or I approve of that. It can now be published. That constitutes a publisher. Platforms are allowed to platform just that. They're allowed to platform speech. And I know, obviously, it sounds a little naive there. I'm sorry. But I'm reading here from Cato Institute, which kind of gives a much better explanation on Section 230. Section 230 does not state that the act of moderating content makes an interactive computer service a publisher. Section 230 merely states that an interactive computer service is not the publisher of most third-party content and is free to moderate content. So, no, them using Section 230 protections to moderate their platform is completely within their legal rights. And time again, this has been voted on. Even Kavanaugh in 2018 said that the act of platforming speech does not make that platform an agent of the state. It is not then held to freedom of speech standards necessarily. So Is there a conversation to be had about big tech having way too much power right now? 100%. Absolutely. Is there something we need to be talk about corporate power and everything else? Absolutely. But this idea that conservatives are being censored is just not borne out in any data at all.
But they really want to slur.
Hold on.
Are you not aware of
Actually, I would just want to
are
say,
you not aware of
also-
Steven
well, hold on,
Crowder's
really,
most
when
recent
you-
ban?
like,
Are you not
actual
aware
data-
of that? How are you
actual-
going to say something like that when it's
Steven
you've got a clear
Crowder,
example of Steven
where
Crowder
his
being banned
racially-
for
Hold on,
race?
wait,
I'm saying when I talk.
This is the hill you want to
Why
die
can't
on.
I say
This
it?
is
When
the
I
hill
talk,
you wanna die on.
Right?
Okay,
Right?
when I
So the reality,
okay, I was very clear that when I talk, nobody else talks. So, okay, who wants to talk?
me.
I do.
What answer did you expect?
I'm gonna throw it over to Denims because hasn't had a time to talk yet. Then it'll be CTV.
Steven Crowder was banned or
My point.
temporarily suspended or
Right?
whatever because he's been spreading COVID misinformation. He has a video on global warming where he points at this one area where the ice sheets are actually expanding. Meanwhile, we're losing fucking tons everywhere else. His entire channel is concerned trolling about things that don't matter, making racist jokes, dressing up to pretend to be trans and work out at a gym or something.
Where no one gives a shit.
Where literally everyone at the gym is like,
Okay.
okay, whatever you want, buddy. Whatever, sure. Just can you stop dropping the weights so loudly? That's all we're asking. You can lift whatever you want. I don't care. Literally, peak fucking garbage. But he was banned because of his pure misinformation. That's why he was banned. Maybe if conservatives could stop lying or getting things wrong all the time, they wouldn't be banned off of platforms.
I would simply be correct. That's what I would do.
exactly. I would
Easy.
simply
I
just
don't
be
think
banned.
that's
Right, so here's the
Boy,
reality.
that's a little bit of a hyperbolic
saying
way.
that nobody's getting fucking banned, right? And then
No,
we have
that's
this
not what I'm
clear
saying.
example. We
no.
have this clear example, right?
Nobody.
That's not what I'm
We have
saying.
this clear
That's not a good
example
Let's let CTV
where
say
we
his thing
have
first.
Steven Crowder.
You know what? Can I
right?
just say really quickly?
This
Yeah,
is what
critical
happens,
thinking.
We'll
right?
say
critical
CTV say his thing.
thinking
We'll throw it over
veteran.
to you, Hunter. We'll just let CTV say, then you can go straight to Hunter. Okay? You still have a good amount of time left. CTV, then Hunter.
Yeah, so geez, Hunter, put down the fucking energy. You want to fucking say something to Phil, right? Take a pill of your own fucking medicine. So we'll start from there, right? Now, Steven
No, I
Crowder
don't see
was banned. There you go. Shut your fucking mouth when an adult is speaking, young man, right? Let's start there because you were already told by the fucking moderator.
yes,
so
sir.
apparently now I have to
Yes,
fucking
sir.
tell you.
I'm sorry,
So
I'm
with that
listening
being
now.
said, the reason why
Attention.
Steven Crowder was fucking banned had everything to do with what
I
he
was a
said
private in the military,
specifically
son.
in his video, right? Which was that he went to addresses that were listed on voter rolls and showed them that these addresses didn't fucking line up with the fucking voter rolls. That's why he was banned off the platform, because he's been doing that same content that Dennis has been talking about for his whole fucking career, right? So if that was the case, why wasn't it done back in the fucking day when he was doing Change My Mind? Shows how much you fucking know about his content anyway. Right?
All right.
Let me
can I
ask the
respond now?
audience
Over to
here.
Hunter, yes.
Let me ask
Over to-
you
Because
that-
that's
wait. I said it was Hunter
Because what's
next.
I just want to point out, I know this is kind of an ad hom attack, and I will address what you said, but as soon as I saw that there was a guy in here named Critically Thinking Veteran, I thought to myself, I guarantee you this guy is not going to have any critical thinking at all.
3 red
And
flags in
literally,
one name.
it's it's just instantly, I'm right. Okay, maybe the
Let me know when you
example
plan on
Hold
starting.
on, wait.
Hunter.
Let me respond here, okay?
Wait, what?
I'm
Wait, what?
sorry.
Oh,
Soldier, you're
that's how
at ease,
respect
soldier.
works,
At
right?
ease.
Okay,
At
that's
ease.
how- that's
Okay,
how
trying to
respect
respond.
works.
Okay,
Wait,
at
okay.
And,
Let
you're,
us
and you
finish.
don't even know what
Let
the
him-
fuck the Navy
wait,
is
wait,
calling
wait,
me.
I said, wait, I'm speaking.
fucking
Okay, Hunter.
That example would possibly prove bias towards Steven Crowder at the best.
Right.
If you want to look at an overwhelmed, at statistical analysis, you'll see that there is no systemic conservative bias. There's no big tech bias that's out to get conservatives. That's what we're arguing about here. I'm not saying no conservative has ever been banned or been mistreated by big tech. Big tech is
You just did a
woefully.
minute ago.
Hold on,
We
stop.
don't care about the individuals. It's about ideas being disappeared off the internet, and that nobody should be able to
Ideas
decide
are not
for
being disappeared
you
by off the
what you're
internet,
allowed
Phil.
to read. No one should be allowed to decide for
Ideas
you.
are not being.
Whether you can hear something
you can
you
literally
need
go to
hear.
info.com
okay.
right now.
Slow down. Okay,
They're
number
getting
one.
Thanos now.
Okay.
This is what I mean.
Wait,
Hold on. This is what I mean with
Sean has
these.
yet had to be able to speak.
That is true.
Okay, back to Hunter. You can finish. Okay.
All I was going to say is, I understand that some conservatives haven't always been treated fairly by big tech. We can dispute the details of what happened with Steven Crowder, if he violated TOS by spreading election misinfo and whatnot. But the truth of the matter is, overwhelming statistics and multiple different analyses have shown that there is no ideological bias with Google search results, with YouTube, and that conservatives dominate Facebook and Twitter. So that's kind of my argument there, that there's no systemic bias here.
It's the exact opposite, right? When we've seen the YouTube algorithm, for instance, right, assisting with the alt-right pipeline, the conservatives have done a good job working these algorithms, so that there are multiple connections between them, so that it will naturally funnel you, if you leave autoplay on, to one video after another video after another video within their network, right? It pulls you in. I've heard people talk about this, right? Like they're on some random video, and then like they leave the autoplay on, and then hours later, right, they're watching fucking Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro, right? It's YouTube. And other companies have shown,
and then
that
God forbid Sean.
They are afraid to actually fight because conservatives cry so much. They cry and they whine endlessly, right? And so anytime one of them does get,
so who's the person that's best to decide for you what's fit for you to read? Who's that person?
That's a totally different conversation, Phil.
Right? That's what we're talking about here.
Wait, one at a time.
Because we're finding out.
All right, I'm done.
Okay. Actual Jake, then Sean.
Okay. All right. Well, who's to decide? The companies that determine the TOS. Pretty easy not to slur.
Oh, that's great. So you want them to decide for you what's fit for you to read
on their platform?
You heard it here first. You heard it here.
If you want to
Actual Jake wants people to decide for you.
Okay, we have a minute and 30 seconds.
Hey, buddy. Take less brain force. Calm down. There needs to be a situation where you shut the fuck up and let me talk.
Wait, okay. This is
what are you filibustering?
Actual Jake talk.
Dumb shit right now. So yes,
you showed up in a corn suit and you're talking about dumb shit.
Okay, I can't believe I make you so insecure. Imagine not being able to be glorious like this, you fucking child. Are you kidding me? I can't believe it. There's no reason I should be less cringe than you on screen. There's no reason. I'm a corn cob. But yet you persist. It's incredible. I respect it. Moving on to the point. The actual point. Yeah, well, I got interrupted 4 times. So the actual point is 5 times. The actual point is, if you want it public, that's fine. You can do that. Then the terms of service would be the Constitution. Fine with that. But then it's a big government thing. You guys can quibble about that. That's totally fine. But as far as worrying about who like what Steven Crowder does and who's getting banned and shit, don't break terms of service on these places that already exist. It's very easy not to say the N-word and not to be wrong about global warming. It's not an opinion. You're not making opinions. You're just lying because it makes you money on the internet. You fool.
Okay. Quickly, we're gonna have Sean go, and then I have the results. The results are in. Sean, go quickly.
Okay. Well, talking about how conservatives grow faster online isn't refuting censorship of conservatives on social media. That's the reason for the censorship. That's why mainstream outlets are calling for greater crackdowns on what they call conspiracy theories on all these platforms. A perfect example of a policy that has a left-leaning bias would be Twitter's misgendering policy. That is fully in line with one side of the political spectrum's view on gender and against the conservative view on gender.
Couldn't you say the same thing?
You're just wrong.
Wait. I said, okay. Is anybody else here named Sean? Am I unaware of that? Sean, continue.
Sorry.
Yeah. So there are policies built in. A perfect example of this, again, is something I saw yesterday. You can get banned for COVID misinformation. There was a story that broke yesterday that is complete and utter misinformation about Ron DeSantis undercounting COVID deaths. It was picked up by all these online lefties as Death Santis, another case of that. But if you read the actual article, the CDC person who covers these statistics related to excess deaths says clearly and unambiguously there's nothing at odds with Florida's death statistics. Yet you can push that, but if you question deaths related to COVID, which is a real thing that certain areas measure COVID deaths by, you can get banned off of these platforms. So it seems like all the new terms of service changes that are enforced retroactively seem to cut, in general, not in all cases, the same exact way.
Okay, so I'm going to say quickly, we have the results. and the person who got the least amount of votes to keep was Phil KOE. He has been knocked out of the ring, thrown out of the ring. In Dastardly faction, he broke his neck. He is permanently been destroyed from competition. He's gonna need some long-term recovery. Yeah, he got the edge treatment. See you later, buddy.
I'm sorry, Phil.
Hey, folks, I'm Phil KOE at KOE Nation on YouTube and Twitch. It was a pleasure seeing all of you and debating with every last one of you people. Be sure to like, share, subscribe.
And chair shot. Okay, next, we just got Tyler Bluntman in here. We're going to start the clock again. We're going to continue the conversation on big tech censorship. You may respond to what Sean said, continue, and welcome, Tyler.
Thank you.
Oh, so was Tyler next? I'm sorry. No? Okay, I'll keep going then.
The guy was next.
I'm sorry. If there's someone else left, I didn't mean to talk over them. But I'll go anyway. So Sean, like I find it interesting.
Not really sorry, but
Sean, I find it interesting that you would bring up the fact that companies don't let you misgender people. Don't let you harass, because that's what it is, right? It's harassment of transgender individuals, right? That simply call them by, or if you don't want to use their pronouns, right? You could call them by their name, right? That's a option that conservatives have, right? But you count this as what, censorship? I don't understand why you would bring this up. Go ahead.
I'm saying this is something clear in policy. Conservatives believe that you are the gender that you were born into, right? I think it's rude. I would call somebody by their name if they had like a goofy pronoun that I'm not interested in. But this is a policy that favors one side of the political spectrum and is weaponized against people who have a genuine belief.
You could literally say the same thing about not saying the N-word. You could literally say the same thing. Like, you could say like it's biased towards the alt-right that you can't say the N-word on Twitter.
Yep.
I mean,
but you can say the N-word on Twitter in certain contexts.
Well, what you're complaining, and you can probably misgender someone in certain
I don't want to say it.
Same here.
I just want to say it.
So
why can't I do it?
No, I mean honestly, Jake, I think that's a bit of a like reductionist point of view.
It's a weird hill to die on. Bring it up, but that's his response. But what do you expect from him?
Jake,
I'll give you a response.
Denims.
No.
Sure.
I didn't bring it up, but you're like, I just want to say it. You're trying to.
Well, I know, but this is the thing, right? So that's you can use the N-word in some circumstances, and you're
look. Let's be real here. This idea that conservatives are all just getting banned because they say the N-word or whatever is really reductionist and not true.
Of course.
What Sean said is really clarifies it a little bit better. Is that conservatives are much more bigoted. We got that one with the misgendering thing, and conservatives are more likely to spread COVID misinformation. We got that one also. There's actually there was a different study done. I think it was done by either Stanford or Yale. It was one of those ones. And they found that Donald Trump was one of the biggest spreaders of COVID misinformation on Twitter. So people point to Donald Trump, for example, getting fact checked as like conservative bias, but then it's like Donald Trump at the same time is spreading more COVID misinformation. And really quick, one more thing, if I could just add, I find this really ironic every time we talk about these conservative censorship topics, because conservatives are so quick to believe this systemic bias towards conservatives exists because they're so desperate to be the little bitch baby snowflakes. But then you turn around and talk about systemic racism, which is like a real documented thing with scores of data. And they're like, I don't know, I saw one black guy that succeeded one time. It's like, it's all based on anecdotes, and it's really hypocritical. It's a fun,
actual Jake, yes. Actual Jake, yes, you can say the N-word, but you can't say it in all the fun ways they want to say it, right? It's not.
It's even beyond that. It's beyond the N-word discussion. It's beyond the N-word discussion.
Exactly.
Really, the idea is that the N-word is obviously that has a sordid past, and we've all had this communal discussion forever. Don't fucking say it. That's easy. Done. As far as the other shit, right? The entire the COVID misinformation, all of your bullshit that you get banned for is literally just anti-science numbskull shit. I'm anti-trans, science is against you. Oh, I'm anti-COVID, science is against you. Global warming, science is against you. It's all this shit all the time. I thought facts didn't give a shit about your feelings, guys. What the fuck is all this feels shit? I feel like I should be able to misgender. Shut up. Be a kind person. Have actual political beliefs besides this sort of like woke, like anti-woke counterculture bullshit where you just fucking virtue signal to your tiny little conservative base and you go, hey, Wolfpack, if you give me 10 subs, I'm going to say the N-word. Like, and I don't know if you actually do that. I don't mean to cast that on you.
Oh, wow, now I got to take a line. Hold on. Now I got to take a line.
CGV has to defend himself.
Go ahead, defend yourself.
Yeah. So the reality
I've never seen your content.
The reality, of course you haven't, right? You don't know what quality when you see it. I mean, that's obvious from the start looking at what you're wearing, right? Because that's clearly like a Walmart. Is that the only thing?
Is that it?
So going on from there.
You want me to put another one on?
Right, so going on from there, I have to take a line from my man Chase Mitchell, right? Because clearly all the fuck anybody else is doing here is like this straw man imposium, right? We got straw men over here and we got straw men over here, right? So let's attack straw men that are not even in the fucking room so that other people, right, that might be aligned with some type of like similar ideology just goes, well, hell, that don't fucking talk about me.
What you
so
do,
what the fuck are you wanting anybody else in the room
to engage so what do you want to say that you can't say?
Or is this just some type of lefty infighting circle jerk? Like what the fuck are y'all doing right now?
Denims. Gotta throw to Denims. Denims hasn't got to talk yet. Okay.
I was going to make the exact point Jake made right before he made it. I'm sorry. Conservatives are just anti-science. You just want to complain about how climate change isn't real and the science doesn't agree with you. You want to complain about how COVID isn't real and the science doesn't agree with you. You want to complain about how masks don't work. The science doesn't agree with you.
Just got mad about Lil Nas 2 seconds ago.
It's fucking insane.
It's free speech as fuck.
Okay, and then the biggest problem though is, I'm sorry, your ideas about gender that you learned from 5th grade biology are not comprehensive. I don't know how else to explain this. If you just look at anything about intersex people and realize how many of these people exist, like you have no leg to stand on. Like, I don't understand. I can sort of understand how you can get a little bit pissy when you see neo-pronouns and you're just like, no, this is a step too far. But like when it comes to people who are trans and they're just asking for she, her, or they, them, I just don't understand. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's very hold on. So what don't you get? With transgender people,
I don't get why it bothers you.
Wait, I want to get clear. Tyler was the next to get
what don't you get?
Why does it bother you?
Yeah.
What bother me?
Why does any of that shit bother you?
In terms of pronouns, he was talking.
What we just talked about. You were here.
In terms of, I'm not sure. Does that bother you, Tyler? I'm not sure.
What that somebody uses? What that somebody wants me to use the pronouns that they want me to use?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I don't believe that it identifies.
Okay, I don't believe your name is Tyler. Yeah. Okay, your name your name is Jared for no reason because I feel away. What?
Not even how pronouns work.
So hold on.
These are some bad arguments, guys. I'm sorry.
So if somebody wants me to use a pronoun, so say that someone is born or somebody identifies as a transgender female, that means you're born as a male, right? So if somebody identifies as a transgender female, they're not a female to me, so I'm not going to identify them as such.
Wait,
now,
why not?
Hold on. Now that does not mean that I am going to quote unquote misgender them. I will go by whatever the fuck their name is. If you change your name from Tom to Tracy, then go ahead. I will go ahead and identify as you as Tracy, and I'll talk about that. And I'll try to stay away from gender specific pronouns. But I'm not going to sacrifice what I believe to be true just because you want me to do it. If you told me, hold on. If you told me that your feelings will get fucking hurt if I don't tell you that the sky is fucking red, I'm not going to tell you that the sky is fucking red. Your feelings just get hurt.
You can't distinguish between sex and gender. You don't know what the difference between sex and gender is.
No, hold on. So
you're like, no.
So Denims right now is again assuming that I don't believe that there's a difference between sex and gender, and I do. See, that's a problem that you have. That's a problem that actual Jake has. Since I've been on here saying, all you people do on this show, all you have done is overgeneralize conservatives.
Sorry, sir, we're not generalizing.
Instead of attacking my argument and asking me, you're just overgeneralizing conservatives.
I have to defend myself.
All three of you are raising your hands.
That's fucking weak.
That just shows how weak you are. Give me. Hey, we need some law and order in here, okay? I'm now a law and order moderator, okay? Okay, I'm gonna stand on the moderator's line. We're gonna throw it over to Denims first. Then, since you're all raising your hand, there's Denims, actual Jake, Prime, but try to not do it super long since all of you are gonna get to talk, and you can only respond so much.
Okay, Jared, I want to tell you something. This is not an overgeneralization, okay? You literally said verbatim, that's not your gender.
My name's not Jared. Who are you talking to, Karen?
No, I'm talking to you. That's what I feel your name is. I'm not. There are no generalizations being made. You literally.
All
said
you have done is
that person-
overgeneralize.
Okay, if you let me finish, I can explain it to you so you can understand
Straw
it.
man
You
imposed.
literally said, "I am not." That's not that person's gender. So clearly, if
I
you
never
can't,
said that.
Let her
Well,
finish,
I
dude.
never said
Let's
that.
okay.
you
Denims,
can go
please.
back and you can go back and check. You said that was that
Oh, yeah, I'm
person's
a clipper.
gender, and you won't you can't respect that person's gender, or
never
that
said
like
that.
I
Lie.
will use their she I will use she her if they want it, but that's
Lie.
not what their gender is. These aren't
Lie.
generalizations.
You
Lie.
said it goes
So
against.
for one,
Wait,
so
well,
for
I was-
one,
wait,
I never
wait,
said
wait,
that we're not
wait,
that.
wait,
So hold on, so hold on.
Okay.
So hold on,
Jared,
I'm gonna
wait,
respond to what she said.
Tyler
I'm
for a
gonna-
little for a
Hold on,
second.
I'm gonna
Everybody,
respond to what she said.
I understand. Give me a second here. So it's gonna since it is 3 people on one right now. What it's gonna be is Denims, then back to.
All right.
I'm about to call you Jared, Tyler. Then over to Actual, then back to Tyler, then to Prime, then to Tyler. It only makes sense he gets to respond to each time. Tyler, you can.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So for one, I never said that I don't or I'm not going to refer to them as their gender, right? I said that if they believe that their gender is not the same as their, or I'm sorry, if they say that they want me to respond to what they say that their gender is, and if I don't believe that their gender matches their biological sex, right, which is clear if they say that they're trans, so it's very easy to decipher, then no, I am not going to respond, or I'm not going to respond to you as that.
So
That's
why
it. That has
why
nothing to
not?
do with gender.
So
I never
why?
said that gender and sex were the same thing.
So
First of all-
why is
first
the
of all-
question?
First of all, pronouns are not a derivative of gender. Pronouns are a derivative of sex, not gender.
Pronouns
you
are a
prove-
derivative of gender.
What source backs that up? Why do you believe
Every
that?
person that has a gender that you disagree with that says my pronouns are this,
hold on,
and then you get mad.
hold on. So saying,
but how does
so
gender
hold on.
exist?
So saying that somebody, so hold on.
No.
We can deduce
explain
this
it to you.
really
Wait,
easily.
let me
We can
explain it
deduce
to
this
you.
really easily.
Just
So
let me explain it to you. Ask the question.
What is
Let me
she a
explain it.
derivative of? What is the word she a derivative of?
It doesn't matter. Do you?
Woman. What is woman a
It's not
derivative of?
of woman.
Female. What is female a
It's
derivative of?
derivative of
Even if
femininity.
it, wait, hold on.
And
Can I
how
just say,
biological-
even if it
How-
is,
how-
that's
Can I explain this
irrelevant.
to you?
Okay,
Can I
That's
explain this?
biological.
Such a-
Okay,
You are
wait, one second.
definitionally-
Three people talking
you
at
are
once. We're gonna-
definitionally
give me a
incorrect.
second. Give me a second
Let
here.
me-
Okay, give me a second here. Okay, there's 2
Let me
people
explain.
talking at once, and I got a magic trick for all of you right now. I know this is wild, but when 3 people talk, you don't get 3 times the information. Actually, you get none of the information. So you need to have a tiny bit of order here. Okay. So Tyler, did you get to say your piece? So I can.
Yeah, I'm just so just to clear this up for like 10
Well,
10
wait.
seconds.
You just said you have to say your piece though.
Well, you just asked me. So
Yeah, and you
I'm-
said yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Then I meant no.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. You got 5 seconds. Can you do it in 5 seconds?
Okay, yeah. So she is a derivative of woman. Woman is a derivative of female. Female is biological. Has nothing to do with gender.
Okay, Jake, and then we're gonna go to Prime, and I
else
see
is
Sean
saying
wants to
Can
drag
I
us back to
talk for a
reality.
second?
No,
Because there's
well-
something I really got to respond here. With
Yeah,
that.
but other people raised their hand first, and
it's
I
a-
got it. Like,
it's-
this is
so-
Oh,
someone-
I didn't know it was like a raising hand thing.
Oh, you weren't here for the
Well,
info. You
now you
weren't
do.
watching. You just kind of
We've been-
walked
we've
into
been
the
raising
show.
our hand. this
Oh,
entire
so we
time.
got somebody that's
Man.
not an actual fan of the Hippy
As an
Dippy
actual
franchise.
fan.
We got
Well,
somebody
that's gonna affect the
Ah.
voters. That's gonna affect
Yeah,
the voters.
yeah. So fuck
So-
Hunter, right?
Okay, so
okay,
okay.
so-
Well, I will
okay.
get it to you, Hunter. I promise. You have enough time. I know I can get it to you by the end of it.
you,
Jake,
Dylan.
Prime, Sean, Hunter. We're gonna do
Okay,
that
so
order.
are you gonna go full biological essentialism here with the anti-abortion hat, and that's the way you want to dig your grave, or do you want to like actually have a fucking cogent thought in your head and just understand that gender is literally social? It has very little to do as far as the
I
pronouns.
didn't say that it wasn't.
As far as the pronouns are concerned, it has very little to do with sex. Sex sometimes informs how people will, of course, have primary and secondary sexual characteristics. Absolutely. But sometimes, guess what? Maybe you don't want your big dick. Maybe you want a nice pussy. Maybe you're going to get one. That's fucking great. Have you seen a neo-vagina? They look the fucking same. Who gives a shit? If someone says, hey, this is my social pronoun, these are the pronouns in a social space, because it doesn't fucking matter when you're checking out their genome, what you call them in the fucking science book. It doesn't matter. What they want is for you socially to
why
understand
do I
and
care?
accept the fact
Why should I care?
to understand. I'll tell you, to understand and accept the fact that, hey, this is who the fuck I am, and we have general understanding of one another. The reason you should care about that is because we live in a world with one another, and it makes a lot more.
Feelings. Yeah, okay.
It's not
So-
feelings.
Oh, we're back to feelings.
Oh, this is such a bad
So-
argument.
okay.
Jake,
So let me
wasn't
can
gonna
I
be a
respond to that
argument.
real quick?
someone
Jake,
should just
Jake,
let me
okay,
take
okay.
over this one.
Jake,
Give me a second.
Give me a second.
Give me a second here.
It's not even feelings argument. It's
Let me
like,
see
Can I respond?
Okay.
'Cause I'm about to
Come
dead
on.
this.
The-
Okay.
no,
I'm about
until we
to
get
dead
There's
this.
so many,
Hold
there's so
on.
many people on the show, and I understand
Can-
everybody wants to respond to everything. But
Can I respond?
Sean
This
hasn't
is
said anything
I'm
in how
gonna
long. Prime
Yeah,
raised his
word.
hand
Dylan,
10 minutes
Dylan.
ago.
Argument.
Dylan,
Okay.
I'm going to
that's not
exit
my
this.
argument.
Okay.
Look, Jake,
got-
Jake, I'm
okay,
going
you
to
got,
stop
like-
responding. I only want to say one thing, and then somebody
Okay.
else can
Okay,
talk.
5
Has
seconds.
nothing to do with
But
feelings.
I think that you and I are going to be able to agree with this. So, regardless if we believe the same thing on this specific point, it doesn't really matter to how I go about it. Just because I don't agree with what you label yourself as, again, I told you from the beginning, I'm not going to be that asshole that goes out of my way to make you feel uncomfortable. I am going to try and call you by the name that you prefer me to do. I think that's a healthy compromise. Who am I to say that your name is more masculine or feminine, right? If you want to go ahead and say that your name's Tracy, fine, your name is Tracy. I will go ahead and do that. And that doesn't sacrifice my own beliefs that I don't believe you to be what you are. I don't think that that's an issue. I don't know why anybody else would try and argue past that if I will call you by the name you asked me to call you.
Okay. So we're going to throw it to Prime because Prime would probably respond to that and probably disagrees with them. So I'm going to throw it to Prime. And then Sean, then Hunter.
So actually, I'd like to reach out an olive branch to my conservative brothers here, and that I don't think you should be able to compel speech. I mean, try to relate this to the original topic, right, in terms of censorship and all that stuff, right? I don't think you should compel speech. So if you are going to call someone by their name, right, like the name that they give you, right, like let's say it's Tracy rather than Tad or something, right? Then if you are going to, then I don't think that's like well. I shouldn't decipher trans individuals whether that's rude or not, but I would say that like we shouldn't try to force people to use words they don't want to use, right?
I also find it hilarious that Denims an actual Jake wanted to bring up this whole thing and then started by calling me a name that's not even my name. I just find that to be just
okay. Prime.
Yeah. So to reach out again, I think we shouldn't be trying to compel speech, right? We want to respect. Respecting free speech is also involves like not saying things you don't want to say, right? Like that's part of free speech, right? Not compelling someone. So I want to say that that's fine, right? And maybe we can actually move back to the original subject because as usual, once we have these political debates, they end up moving towards somehow, no matter what the topic is, like to the bodies of our trans brothers and sisters. So maybe we could move back to the original topic, talking about big tech censorship, right? And so I think as long as conservatives, let's say, like for instance, on YouTube, aren't misgendering someone, right? Like they are using the name, the given name of a person, then why should we care? Like, why should we care? Like, I don't think it's up to us on the left to be forcing them, to policing them in that way, right? Like, as long as it's not, but like, obviously misgendering, I'm going to make it very clear, misgendering is harassment, in my opinion. And so that should be that should be against the rules.
Okay, Sean, you are next.
Yeah, so like I don't know why we ended up in a weird like debate about transgender people. My point was that this policy at Twitter favors one side, and I think the debate that spawned from this with all the virtue signaling shows that people are passionate about this. My point is big tech is on one of these sides, and their policies reflect that. Like, I have no problem calling you by, like, if you're trying to transition gender, I have no problem calling you by your pronoun. That's not the point. The point is that some conservatives, like the people on this panel, believe that she refers only to biological females, and that's what they call you. And Twitter disagrees, and that is the left-wing position to disagree with that. That was the overall point. It wasn't about whether or not that's right or wrong. The point is that these policies cut in direction of one person or one side and against another side. That's what I was making. And as far as it being harassment is persistent and repeatedly, like, you can use misgendering as a component of harassment, but on its own, like, if you literally can't tell and you make your best guess, that's not harassment.
Okay.
That's true.
Next is going to be over to Hunter.
All right. Yeah, Tyler, I would really like a chance to talk to you, man, because I see your hat. I'm guessing from the hat alone, you're probably like a Trump fan too, or at least you were. And
you would be guessing wrong.
Oh, really? Okay.
Really?
Okay. Wow. Very surprising. So I used to be a conservative. So I feel like,
you get surprised a lot.
I missed who said that, but it sounded funny.
CTV.
Gotcha. Yeah. If I could just explain to you, Tyler, some of the stuff, like, so first of all, the pronoun thing, right? Like, when trans people are transitioning, they usually, in like most cases, most every time, they are trying to present themselves as the gender that they identify as, right? So They might be biologically male, sure, but their gender might differ from their biology, and they might identify as a woman, not as a female. And that's what gender dysphoria is. You know, a lot of the times I think people misunderstand the argument and they think that trans people are up here literally claiming that, like, if their penis magically turns into a vagina or something. Like, trans people have gender dysphoria. They are, like, most trans people are painfully aware of that disconnect there. And one of the ways that they mitigate that, which is literally supported by scientific and medical consensus, is to begin transitioning, sometimes socially, which means they try to present more like the gender that they identify as, which means that for the most part, they are going to look like that gender. You probably pass transgender people all the time and don't even realize it because they pass, right? And for the most part, most trans people pass, enough so that using pronouns really comes down to a utilitarian thing more than anything else. If you were in a crowded restaurant, right, and you saw somebody across the room in a dress with long hair, what are you going to say to the waiter? Are you going to be like, sorry, I'm finishing up here. Are you going to say, like, what? I guess I'll go talk to that biological man.
That's what I was going to say after everyone started yelling.
Round is
for the
over.
record.
I don't understand.
Right,
I don't
guys,
understand what that had
round's
to do with
over.
it.
Good job,
Round's
Hunter.
over.
Appreciate
We have the results for polling. I'll let chat vote for a few more seconds since anybody might just be listening to audio. Then go and vote now. That was a hell of a round, wasn't it?
So proud of Hunter. By the
Do you
way.
think
You've come a
you
long
guys?
way. I love you.
Yeah. I am very proud of Hunter of saying all of those great things that was not relevant to anything that I had to say.
I'm sorry. I thought you were saying the pronouns were that you wouldn't respect.
I got a question.
I was giving you a good reason as
for
to
the
why you might.
participants. I got an actual question for the participants. I got a question that's relevant. Okay, so do you guys want to do? We have one more topic after this. Do you guys want to continue on this topic or shift to the next one? Because it seems like there's still a lot to be said.
What's the next topic?
Let me check. James, do you remember what is the next topic?
If I remember right, did we cover?
We've covered filibuster, big tech censorship. Do you remember what was next?
We should stick to the trans issue.
Isn't cancel culture the next topic?
Gun control. I think gun control
was it. It was gun control and one second. I mean, I'll get it. I'll just let everybody finish. I had it on the list.
I'd be able to stick around probably for the cancel culture part.
Oh, cancel culture. That was it. Thank you. Okay. Hunter was just keeping that in pocket. He wasn't going to give it to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were looking for that.
He
one.
doesn't even watch the
I thought you
show
said cancel
regularly,
culture
right?
already.
We have the
But he already
results.
said
We
that.
have the. I've been DM'd by the. I've been DM'd by the. judges, and we have the results right here on this piece of paper.
I'm gonna guess that it's me.
Everybody always thinks it's them. Everybody also thinks it. Man, this result's really surprising. Really surprising. Can you believe this result, guys? It's super surprising, actually. So I'm just still in shock over the result here. Sorry,
like
CTV. You've been kicked out of the ring. I'll let you say your moniker though, because you've been a great service to the show.
Well, this is the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. You fuckers need to get a lot funnier, right? And there needs to be a lot less disingenuous attacks and some actual truth.
I like how
That's
we're
my
just
name, bro.
I like how we're just eliminating.
Wait, what happened to the
conservatives.
moniker? What about the moniker?
I like how we're eliminating
He
just all the conservatives.
Again,
Conservative
as with
censorship.
elections, just be more
Well,
likable.
don't worry. We have everybody's favorite conservative coming on next.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You have to
Everyone's
marshal
favorite
your-
conservative. Does
He didn't
anybody know?
howl.
Does nobody
You have to
know?
marshal your
I
force-
just-
somebody know about the
force line
surprise
to get
guest?
eliminated.
Who's
I have
everyone's
no idea.
favorite conservative?
Shoeonhead. The surprise
Oh,
guest for
hello.
the show. Nobody knew about.
Hi.
Wonderful.
I don't know who that is.
Welcome,
Hello,
Shoeonhead.
can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
we can hear you.
It's nice to
All
meet
right,
you.
cool. Hey,
The only
everybody.
person
I've been
I've
watching,
ever-
and it's been a train wreck.
The only person I've ever seen with an American flag in the background that doesn't make me want to kill myself.
What?
So,
In Minecraft,
Actual
in the
Jake.
Rust
In my
Sorry, Dylan.
yeah, seriously.
Actual Jake. You
It's
look at
really
my
nice
background quick?
to.
Can you what?
Oh,
You look at my background quick, actual Jake.
Don't see it.
There's a flag right there.
I do see it. I do see it.
Damn.
Second person.
Chat, take that in consideration when voting.
It's nice to meet you, shoeonhead. I've been a fan of your work, and I want to say hi to James. Didn't get to do that. James, I love your work on YouTube. Can you get me Matt Dillahunty's autograph? Is that a thing you can do? Is that a thing I can ask for?
I can get you Matt Dillahunty's autograph too.
You're all friends, and I hate it. Let's go to the next topic, which is cancel culture. Is cancel culture a real issue, or is it being overhyped and it's complete nonsense? I'm gonna, of course, throw it first to shoeonhead since he just joined.
So I actually do think that cancel culture is a real thing. I think lately it's kind of being overhyped. Like, as always, conservatives are running with it, but they're like calling everything cancel culture. They're calling, like, for example, the Dr. Seuss thing, where Dr. Seuss, the publication like itself, wanted to get rid of, stop publishing those few books, and they were like, oh, this is cancel culture. Like, no, that's not cancel culture. But I do believe that cancel culture is a real thing, and I actually do believe that it's like a problem. And the scariest thing that I heard recently was during a Trump speech. He briefly said during like his normal, where he's like, oh, the radical Democrats are coming, and like you roll your eyes. But he had one point where he was like, you know, they do this, and he said, they want to get you fired from your jobs. And that, he didn't expand on that. But that kind of scared me, because that is going to become a very important conversation, like in the political sphere soon. People getting fired from, or like being forced to resign, like from college campuses and stuff like that. And it's a real fear that like normal everyday people have. Like they can't keep up with the newest terms and stuff like that, like lingo and everything. They're scared that if they say a joke on Facebook, you know, their boss will find out or whatever. And I feel like that's a real conversation that's going to be happening. And I feel like the left needs to take it seriously, because the right is going to run with it. And it's a real fear that normal people have. And there's a lot of examples of it actually happening. Like that poor college girl that like said the N-word or something, like what, like 5 years ago, and they like kept it. Did you guys see that story?
Yeah.
They held on to that for 5 years. And then when she got into college, the person, this like psychotic person, was just like, oh, hey, here. And like she had to, you know, not get into that college anymore. Stuff like that. And there's also like a New York Times writer, and like that
thing too.
Yeah. And so like this is a real issue, and it's going to keep getting worse and worse. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, oh, sweetie, it's just accountability culture. And like, no, that's not what's happening here. And I feel like the left needs to get a little smarter about it. Yeah.
Denims was the first to raise their hand, so I'm going to throw it to Denims first.
I wanted to make a quick distinction. When you talk about cancel culture being real, you're not talking about like giant celebrities getting canceled, because realistically, these people will bounce right fucking back. Like it doesn't matter how big. Okay,
not like J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, or like the James Charles shit. It's like, yeah, he got canceled, all right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the real issue is with workers, ordinary individuals, right, who can't fight back. So I think, I'm not sure, Head, you mentioned the New York Times thing, and there's lots of things the New York Times has done. But the one that comes to mind is the one woman who went to a party dressed like maybe in some sort of racially insensitive costume, right? And then they did this expose about this. This was like a long time ago it happened, right? And the woman had already like felt like terrible about it, right? But they decided to put this woman on blast, right? For no particular reason, and it didn't actually. She wasn't anyone, like she wasn't even a public figure, right? Yeah. They just decided to destroy this woman's life. Why? What did that actually accomplish, right? Now, can cancel culture be useful, right, to call actual abusers? I think so. I think we can use that to say that no, you cannot go through life using your money and your power, right, and have no consequences whatsoever. But even then, as Denims stated before she left, in that case, it rarely works, right? So I feel like the people with the least power end up being hurt the most, right? And the people with the most power, the intended targets, end up being hurt the least any which way. And even when they're not hurt, right? So you'll have and you'll have a lot of these people. They'll be on CNN, right? Like fucking J.K. Rowling, again, for example. She is on CNN complaining I'm being canceled while she's in an audience of millions of people, right? Mm-hmm. So again, it's the little people who get hurt, the big people get to walk away.
Okay, next I saw actual Jake and then Hunter.
Okay. I definitely think there's a little bit where you're right and a little bit where you're wrong. Definitely there was an overcorrection because no one had been held accountable for a very long time, or at least not no one, but nobody that needed to be held accountable. And so you have a surge, and this tends to happen when a vast minority group, whatever that may be, whether it's trans, LGBT, racial minorities, whatever, or ethnic minorities, religious minorities, any of them, you will have this pushback because for a long time they were voiceless. And they were not being heard at all. And so it's you made your own bed when you decided not to listen to them in the first case. And sometimes that's going to happen. You're going to have these sort of social casualties along the way as we move towards something that's a better system, in which case the better system would be where we just hold people accountable to their words at the time and we call it out. This is what the whole anti-racist movement is that I know a lot of right-wingers don't like to hear because they get upset about it for some reason. But really what anti-racism is, and any other kind of like anti-homophobia, anti-transphobia, whatever it might be in your space, is, hey, actively calling that out right there when it happens, not laughing and going, ha ha ha, I'm being socially awkward, and then letting that stew and percolate. That's the point, right? We're going to get to a point where we just go, that's not cool. Now, do I think that someone should have their life ruined because when they were 14 years old, they said the N-word on Xbox Live? No. Do I think that that it's reasonable for someone that says the N-word tomorrow to get canceled, whether or not you're a mom that sells cookies and drives her kids to soccer or not, or whatever? Yeah, you kind of know now. There's been a sort of a statute of limitations. We know now, right now, you don't get to do that shit anymore. So there's a little bit of stuff where you got to be edgy in the past, but if you continue to do that in the future, I mean, you know what the terms of service are, both on all these platforms and in the country. Like, you just know it.
What should the consequences be, though? What should the consequences? So let's say
relative to whatever happens.
We had
right?
So we had talking about a mom and the N-word that literally just happened. There was a woman within a grocery store, right, or something. She was talking to a clerk or whatever, right, behind the counter. She called him the N-word, and she's like, "Well, that's what you are. You're an N-word, right?" And then no one. I don't think she actually been identified. But if we could identify this woman, what would your prescription be for her?
Will my prescription be?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a specific social prescription for every single one of these scenarios of racism, but if she has a position, say she's a teacher or something, yeah, fucking get fired. But if you're an Amazon worker, I mean, like is Amazon even going to fire that person? They might. It just depends. So
Also,
I mean, don't be calling people the N-words. Go ahead.
It should be adjusted based on like how severe your crime is, right? Like if you
That's what I'm
said a
saying.
word, it's like you probably shouldn't say that or whatever. But like if
And
you
by
like,
crime, you mean social crime.
yes,
Yeah,
but if
not
you
like,
like,
I don't need anyone to be jailed for this shit, unless it's harassment.
So can I respond, Jake?
Sure. Hunter
was
wanted
next,
to go
but yeah,
though. So Hunter, then
It's
you.
okay.
No,
you can-
I'm not trying to cut anybody. If Hunter was
Tyler,
next,
you can go ahead, Tyler. It's
Okay, Tyler.
I appreciate that, man. So Jake, so when you're saying that people that are saying the N-word that are racist, are you saying only white people, or do you apply that to black people as well if they say it?
I love that question. Are you saying it in like because it's one of your colloquial friends, or is it because are you saying it to a song, or are you calling and denigrating someone based on the color of their skin? There's obvious social differences. It's not just the word, it's how it's used in relative. We are not ants. We can understand social faux pas and understand socialization. We don't have to just go, that word blacklisted. I guess that was a
okay. So
no
just to
pun
clarify,
intended.
So just to clarify, then are you saying, I'm not trying to straw man your argument, so correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Are you saying that if a white person says it in as a term of endearment, that it would be socially acceptable?
I mean, okay. So again, if you give your white friends the N-word pass, that's fucking weird to me. And if you are a white person with the pass, you're strange to me. Now there's some people that claim like I grew up in the neighborhood and I got friends and they gave me the pass. Whatever, dude. That's weird to me. If you want to do that, cool. But I mean, you know, in the world that you're living, if he's saying, hey man, hey bro, and then they dap up, and then another person sees it and films it, you're not gonna get canceled for that. Obviously, there was like social consent there. If you're screaming at a teller and saying you're an N-word, that's what you are. You're an N-word. Like
so yes or no?
So yes, do you think that was a Kendrick Lamar song?
You didn't actually answer. You didn't actually.
No,
answer
you really did. It's
so
nuanced.
Yes or no?
It's not a yes or no.
I basically
It's
what
literally
I wanna know,
not a yes or no.
Basically, what I want to know is I want to make sure that you're just consistent with everybody. Are you saying that in the context of whatever, if you're saying it as a term of endearment, or if you're saying it in a quote unquote racist way against another person, do you hold that same stance no matter what the race or ethnicity is?
Didn't I just say that it mattered based on the social interaction? Out loud with my words?
I just outlined that in the question that I just asked you, but you're
right. I said out loud that it matters based on the social interaction, right? Like if I go up to one of my friends and I'm like, "Hey, you sexy bitch," like, and that's one of my friends, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you are also a sexy bitch, Mr. Corn." And then I go, and then if I say, "Hey, you sexy bitch," to some random woman who doesn't know me, we have no rapport whatsoever, what's her fucking response gonna be? Obviously, that's me being a fucking weirdo, not being cool. Like,
Okay,
yeah,
so
if you just say, "Hey, what up, my N-word," to a random black guy who you think you might be cool with at the 7-Eleven, I don't think that's gonna fucking fly, my guy. But if you are friends for lifelong with that guy and you're part of the neighborhood, you're part of this culture, like that happens from time to time, but it's not like, it's pretty rare, right? And it's irrelevant, right?
I don't care about the rarity. I just want to make sure. So if in your own
what are you confused about?
In your own hypothetical, when you were talking about some sexy bitch, in that hypothetical, if you went up to one of your friends, a white friend or a black friend or whatever, and you said, "Hey, you sexy N-word," should you or should you not be canceled?
Well, I wouldn't, so I hope you cancel me because that's not my culture.
I mean, like, somebody else people before getting bogged down in this.
Right?
Yeah, please.
We don't
have to focus on the N-word. There's so many other things that people get canceled. When it comes, like people get, like I think a bigger threat is like being canceled, like being gay, right, and putting up photos of your marriage on some social media, your boss finding out, and then you're fired. I think it's like a bigger reason. This is what people actually been canceled.
That's much more unlikely.
That
would also be a crime.
But no. But I'm saying this is what cancel culture has also. First of all, it depends on.
That's discrimination.
It's discrimination, true. But I'm saying like that's
you'd have a lawsuit.
I'm saying that is it. Hold on. I'm saying, and they don't have to say that. Obviously, they can fire you for any fucking reason, right? And then you can fire you because you're gay, but they'll say for another reason, right? So honestly, but my point is that that's a bigger issue, right? Like then people just saying these words, right? These actual people being attacked for who they are, right? And by their place of employment. I think that's a much bigger issue than actual, like someone says a words, a slur.
Can I?
Oh, sorry.
You can respond.
Yeah, I just want to say when it comes to the cancel culture thing, I think it really is, there is a lot of nuance there. The N-word is an easy example to point at. I also think it matters how much consequences or negative consequences derive from like said person's racist actions. So, for example, if like some soccer mom is like, driving along in like her minivan, right, and like sings the N-word, or even I would say actually, even if a soccer mom is being racist and like uses the N-word in a racist thing, I think racist context, I think that someone should be like, "Yo, don't talk like that," or you shouldn't be saying that. But I don't think that like there's any harm coming to black people from like Karen saying the N-word or whatever. I think that there could be, but I think
broader systemic harm.
But
I agree, Hunter. I agree.
You have to analyze how much harm is done here, and that's a lot of the times. That's a lot of the times what the problem is, like what we saw with this Teen Vogue situation, which is this girl made Asian joke tweets was what they really were when she was a minor in high school in 2011 and got fired from her job now as a like nearly 30-year-old woman.
So I think that's exactly what you were saying previously, actual Jake, right? Saying that these things, like,
specifically,
I'll speak on that Teen Vogue thing, right? It seemed to me that this woman, she certainly made a mistake, right? She apologized for it. Like people, from what I understand the situation, someone correct me if I'm wrong, that the employers had already known about this situation, and they talked to her and thought like, no, this is something we can move past. And this is a woman trying to move on for life, because that's a big problem with cancel culture, is that we don't have like forgiveness. Like we can't do exactly what Hunter said, like analyze the situation, see like did this person honest. Are they anti-Asian? If that's what she said previously, are they a racist here, or is it a person who said something offensive at the time, right?
Yeah.
Something edgy, right? And then we can understand that maybe they've moved past it, that maybe they've changed, right? So I want to give people room to grow, right? If we don't give people room to grow, then first of all, they won't admit what they've done, right? They'll never admit what they've done, because once they admit what they've done, then the punishment is coming their way one way or the other, right? We can understand that maybe these people can change throughout their lifetimes, and then simply firing them for all this is not necessary.
Okay, I'm going to throw it to Sean because Sean hasn't gotten to talk about this yet.
Yeah, respect. So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there were a bunch of losers that would write letters to like media organizations when they saw things that they didn't like to complain. And for some reason, these organizations would take these losers seriously. Now all of those losers have Twitter accounts, and it's much easier for them to complain about things they see in their day-to-day lives. So like when we're talking about cancel culture, it's like individual cases are kind of like whatever, like you can pick one and everybody's going to dispute it and all that. But I think it is toxic in our society that there are people on the internet who spend all day on the internet looking for people to target and then harass and get them fired from their job, et cetera, et cetera. And to Prime's point about us leaving no room for growth, I think that is 100% true, because you'll take a case, and I'll pick one that a lot of you will think the woman is in the wrong, of like Amy Cooper in Central Park, right? And she calls the police on this guy. I think that any dog mom that gets like threatened mildly by a dude would have probably spazzed out in the same way. And for some reason, that is like international news. And we're talking about it. She's fired from her job.
The bird watching guy?
Yeah.
Didn't she call the cops on him?
Yeah, she did. She weaponized. Well, okay.
I picked a case that you guys would deliberately be against her, because this is my point, right? So she called the cops on him. She like acknowledges she made a mistake. The guy specifically said, like, leave her alone shortly after, before they even called into arrest. He even implied that he wasn't interested in testifying against her. His original Facebook post said that he brought dog treats to like scare people who walk their dogs without a leash in that area. But the internet has not relented. The national media has not relented on this woman. So at what point do we say, okay, you looked really bad in this interaction. You probably spazzed out because you're a dog mom, and dog moms are cringe as hell. But like, can we move on as a society and let this person come and join us and get an actual job and be cool? Like, where's the redemption portion of it? Are we just going to be vicious and dogpile on this random citizen?
So I think that she should have actually had some sort of punishment for what she did, because in my opinion, she called it a fucking execution. She knew exactly what she's fucking doing against that individual. She actually hold on. White women, hold on. I'm not gonna let that stand. White women have been using their tears, right, to call in violence against African Americans for centuries, right? This is not a new concept, right? But beyond that, right, getting some sort of punishment for what she did, should this be a forever punishment? No, right? So I think like, is it a possibility that this woman can grow up in this situation, can understand that what she did was wrong, and become a better person at the end of it? Yes, I actually do believe that. But let's not like minimize what she did. She was calling it a motherfucking execution.
I'm minimizing what she did.
Absolutely, Prime.
Non-issue.
Okay,
absolutely,
Jake,
Prime.
It's an altercation in a
And I want to
be national news.
Yeah. I want to push back on.
Denims.
I want to push back on both what Sean said in doubling down on what Prime just said, which is absolutely correct, and then pushing back just a little bit with Hunter, not a ton, with the harm thing. With the harm thing, sure, one instance of saying the N-word at one black person might not seem like a bunch of harm, and in the minuscule it is. In the macro scale, this happens every day.
Well, if I could just say,
hold on, it's like saying one pail of water in the tub isn't going to overflow it. But yeah, it will if everybody else also does a pail of water. And eventually these things stack up and it leads to systemic normalized racism. This is harm. Another thing with the police, anytime you call the police on a black person for fucking anything, it is weaponizing the police just because of how that apparatus operates in the United States. And I understand there are justified cases where you probably should call the police, but let it be known that it's more likely to end up per capita, not overall, per capita, because there are fewer black people, but you know, that's how per capita works. It's per capita more likely to end in violent altercation with the police. Whether or not that person is armed or whatever, who cares? They're supposed to be able to be armed. It's the Second Amendment. I don't know why people are worried about this, that kind of thing. It's just weird. There's a lot of harm that happens in the micro to minority groups, whether it's black, whether it's LGBT, whatever, and it is harm. Just because it's a little bit of harm doesn't mean it's not harm, and it absolutely exacerbates
and
overall harm. And I know that's not
that,
really what you were saying. I just wanted to clarify.
Well, no, I'm not. I wasn't even saying that there's
10
no
seconds
harm.
quick, because Denims, we only have 40 seconds left. So Hunter then Denims, you both get 20.
All I was gonna say is I'm not saying there's no harm in a white woman calling a black guy the N-word. I mean, if a white woman says the N-word and it's caught on video like we've seen, I just think the consequences should fit the crime overall. And I think that sometimes there needs to be some nuance there, and we need to be like willing to look into it. And I do think that consequences play a role. Again, though, I'm not saying that there's no consequences to a white woman deliberately calling someone the N-word.
I didn't think you said that.
Well, I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Denims?
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to also add on really quickly. It's a lot like how we view voting, where like there's a common talking point of like, well, one vote doesn't matter. And it's like, well, if millions of people say that, then it kind of does. The other things I wanted to say, I'll try and be as fast as possible. I think we should make distinctions between children and adults. True. If a child does something like they said the N-word in a group chat when they were 16, I just don't care that much, okay? If you're 40 and you're calling people the N-word and you're trying to use it as a slur, I care a lot more. And I want to make a distinction between people who did it once and repeat offenders who continuously keep getting caught doing this
also
shit.
True.
Okay, so we have the votes are in, and this is a first. It's a split vote between the judges on who should be voted out. And the two people who are up are Prime and Tyler. So I will read out the votes. The first vote is from the first vote is from Danabo to vote out Tyler. The second vote is from Geek to vote out Prime. And the last one, which is a celebrity guest judge, which I will reveal at the end, voted out Prime. I'm sorry, Prime. You have been voted out by the judges.
Thanks so much, Dylan, for letting me on this. Really appreciate that. Nice to meet you, James. Like I said, I'm actually a big fan of your work. See a lot of it. And nice to talk to all the rest of you, meet you. My name is PrimeCayes. I run my own channel. Come visit me, PrimeCayes. We have panels, we have discussions, we'll have an open panel right after, well, not right after this, but soon. We're going to have an open panel. So please come check us out. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next, I'm going to, okay, we're going to continue the topic on this one. We're going to just keep going on cancel culture. Yeah, so you can keep going. Free to keep going.
Well, now actually would probably be a good time for me to split, because I've been on here for about an hour now, and I got to get going.
Damn, you should have said that before we kicked out Prime.
Oh, I didn't. I wanted to see Prime go.
Wow.
I mean,
Hunter Avallone, you're trying to come on the left and you throw a black man under the bus.
I didn't. Yes.
Interesting.
There's no harmful consequence. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Fuck.
Thanks a lot for having me on, Dylan. Really appreciate it.
Okay,
nice meeting you guys. Nice meeting everybody.
No problem.
And nice to see you, Sean. I like your bedroom in your mom's house is very nice. Very nice indeed.
My mom doesn't own a house, but it's nice to see you too.
Nice to see you too, buddy. Go make your 60th video about me. Peace.
It's like 7. You deserved all of them.
Oh, 7. That's a lot better. Okay, yeah. Just I know.
Rivalry here.
Damn.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, tell me specifically before I show up not to add Hom Hunter, but let him do whatever he wants, because that's the only way he would agree to be on. But whatever.
You mad?
It's like salt. It's like salt in the air.
We're gonna throw it. We're gonna throw it over to. Well, no, you guys can just go. We're trying to get the next person to join quick.
Where's the cat guy?
One thing I wanted to bring up about cancel culture, there's also like when people talk about like unionization and stuff, their boss will like find out, and like that's one thing that they'll be canceled and fired over. My biggest concern with cancel culture is literally it's basically going to turn into a workers' rights issue. It's not really right now, but it's absolutely going to turn into that. And I feel like that's a really important thing, and that we need to talk about more.
Well, luckily, there's legislation right now to get rid of right to work, so that's pretty fucking dope.
Hey, am I in here? Am I allowed to talk?
Yeah, you've been allowed to talk. You just haven't taken advantage of it.
Okay. Yeah, I got a couple thoughts. First of all, the left, they're always talking about both sides of their mouth. It's always like cancel culture isn't real, but it's also like, hey,
Wait.
You know, we have to like have forgiveness. We have to understand if people, if they don't really mean harm, we're gonna give them a chance to go through the little struggle session and repent for their sins, and then we're gonna not destroy their lives as long as they show enough. You know, what's the word I'm looking for? As long as they show enough attrition. That's not the word, but you know what I mean. Sorrow for what they've done. So it's like there is no cancel culture, or it's good. But if you are repentant enough, we're gonna not destroy your lives. And then people like Jake and the guy who left already, I forgot his name, the black dude. They're both saying that there should be.
Whoa, hold on.
Sorry. I'm just Prime or whatever his name is. Yeah. They're both saying there should be punishments for these actions, but they're not telling us what the punishments would be. So Sean brought up the example of the woman who called the cops on the bird watcher, and that dude said that, yeah, she should be punished in some way for doing that. I think it's really crazy to make a statement like that and not tell everybody exactly what you're thinking. How long should the struggle session be? How much it, you know, what is the punishment? What's the appropriate punishment for calling the police on somebody when you feel threatened?
Okay, one quick thing. James, can you take over moderation? I desperately need to use the bathroom.
Gladly.
Thank you.
Okay. If I can make a quick comment, this is like the most insane. I actually can't believe how insane this straw man is about the left. There are literally 3 lefties on here right now, and none of them said cancel culture isn't real. There aren't lefties who think cancel culture isn't real. There are a lot of lefties and people in general who think cancel culture doesn't impact rich celebrities, because that's true. But everyone here so far has been saying cancel culture definitely affects people. Also, the format of this panel, like everyone only has like 30 seconds or a minute to speak.
Anyway, as far as
that was so awkward.
Yeah, it was really awkward. So as far
I think I'm like the only black guy here, and it wasn't awkward for me.
Yeah, it's awkward for TOS.
Okay, let me be clear.
He just asked us not to do that. Like, it's irrelevant.
My stream will be taken down if the word is said on
understood.
My stream.
Yeah, understood.
So that's why it's not good that.
Yeah, that's why I said it was awkward, because like.
What's
not
weird
because
is
there's
you
someone
say
saying
it
the
when
N-word.
somebody else is talking, so it can be hidden behind them talking. Like, what kind of weird shit is that?
I didn't even hear it. I didn't even hear that shit.
I didn't hear it either.
It picked up really well on my end. I don't know. It picked up really well on my. Anyways, my whole chat blew up. My entire chat blew up. But anyway, as far as the cancel culture thing, and just to answer the guy's question that's gone now, as far as like what punitive damage ought we take towards someone who dare violate the social order, that's not really what it's about. It's like, what's the social reaction to it? That's what it is. And I'm sorry you have to deal with the rest of us. That's just literally what it is. I'm not saying there's a specific sentence to be carried out. If you're a particularly egregious person, the rest of the people that witness that will consider you egregious and will operate in that way. It's literally just social behavior. If you can't understand how to socialize with anybody else and you're confused why saying slurs at people or why someone in the middle of a national race debate might get a little more heat than usual for weaponizing the cops against a bird watcher, you're tone deaf and dumb and you deserve it. I genuinely don't understand how you don't like understand the social cues of the situation. Now, as for should her life be ruined? Probably not. Is it ruined? Does she have a life? I don't know what she's got going on.
Well, she got fired from her
again,
job.
you're going to overcorrect at the beginning of this because there's massive amounts of people that were in fact pretty voiceless in this conversation for years. We've had race riots for hundreds of years, and only really now are people being like actually heard. The fact that you're getting center left people to be like, you know what, maybe BLM, maybe this entire thing is like I'm actually learning about stuff, and I'm the way they're communicating is really good. Like, it's going to take a little bit of social change for this to reorganize itself. But I agree that the only way this is going to manifest negatively will be workers' rights. But luckily, you can protect workers through legislation, which seems to be happening right now. So, I mean, like, as far as social stuff, I don't think you should go to prison for saying that. But like, I mean, you reap what you sow. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. You can be that. That's totally fine. Free speech, definitely. But I mean, like, it's also the rest of everybody else's free speech to be like, hey, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah, so I reject your framing of weaponizing the cops. Again, if you're a woman you're cornered in a park and you feel like they're going to take your dog,
How do you get cornered in a park?
No matter the races, you're going to call the cops, especially if you're one of these cringe dog moms. Number one. Number
Why
two.
are women
like,
with dogs
Wait, quick question.
Number
I have a
two,
quick question.
you
Wait,
mentioned
quick
it
question.
earlier in the
Tyler,
video, like
cringe.
how black people are disproportionately killed only to their population, not to their crime. So I reject, again, your weaponization of the police nonsense and how this was a life in danger thing. They showed up, they talked to the guy, everybody was fine. She ended up getting arrested and becoming a national news story. So,
Have
like,
you ever been to
that's
Central
all, like,
Park?
nonsense.
Have you ever
you're
been to
just
Central
adding in
Park?
there.
AAW, have you ever been to Central Park?
Yeah, I
That's where
live
it
in New
happened,
York
right? It
City.
was in Central Park. Yeah,
Huh?
Central Park is not exactly the most secluded park in the world. This is your constant framing of this as an incident where she was cornered.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just
have you been?
Just
where are you
just
from?
the lies. Wait,
Where are you
excuse
from?
me, sorry. Wait, are you asking me whether I've been to Central Park? Yes,
Where are you from?
many times. I live in Seattle.
Oh,
What do you mean
Seattle,
where
okay.
I'm from? Yeah.
So you know the conditions
was
of
that
Central
supposed to
Park
be like a
like
gotcha?
earlier in the
I live in New
morning.
York, or I've lived in New York for 20 something
Yeah.
years.
So early
I know what it's like.
I used to go to New York every single year for
It's
I've
a
Thanksgiving.
never
very
been,
big
but I
park.
really love the movie
It's a
Elf.
big park, yeah, but it's not like super secluded. It's in the middle of a city. In Central Park, you can see lots
Where
of
are
other
all the
people.
people in the video?
Wait, there were.
What?
And I'm pretty sure that in the video you can see other people walking around, and it doesn't. And the idea that you're
Again,
going
if
to try and
somebody's trying
use
to
that
corner
to
your
stretch out this
dog,
idea
like you're
that
like, oh, there's somebody
she's
nearby.
been cornered.
Would it
when
have been
in
better
the
to
video,
call
she's
like some
literally
guy for
saying,
help
"Oh,
to
the
beat up
police
this
are
guy?
gonna are gonna side with me." We know what was happening. Don't play dumb. You always do this shit.
Yeah, she
Conservatives
called the
always
police.
love to do this shit. They love to
Because
walk
she
in and
was
play
scared.
dumb, like, oh, it was because she was a dog mom, not because she's obviously playing upon racial stereotypes in order to try and make the police side with her and potentially harm this person. His life could have been ended. This happened right in the height of record civil rights protests, which are a response to unbelievably overwhelming violence against black people. And you're going to try and tell me it's because she was an overzealous dog mom? Get the
That
fuck
is
out
what
of here.
happened.
Also, I wanna
Nobody
make-
believes you.
He admitted to
Nobody in this
everything that-
audience believes you, and you don't
He
even believe
admitted
it.
to
Okay, give us a second.
everything
We gotta
that
let
he said.
Sean
So you can
respond.
have moral outrage, but he literally
That's not
admitted
moral
to
outrage.
everything
The
he
only
said.
the
So
only
you're
morally
just leaving
outraging
the
thing here
room.
is how fucking dishonest and stupid you are, and how stupid you think
Oh,
the
here we go.
audience
Name
is
calling.
for
Come
thinking
on,
that
come
you
on.
would be able to buy. Yes, I will ad
Cry
hom
a
you.
little bit. Add a little
I
more
will ad
emotion.
hom you. I believe you
Add a
deserve
little
an
more
ad hom when
emotion.
you think that you
When
can
I know
sell
the
a
case.
racist narrative to the
When I know the
audience
case.
that's all here watching. You're full of shit, and you know it.
When I know
And
the
we
case,
all
go
know it,
read
and
his
the
Facebook
audience
post.
knows it.
Go read his Facebook post. Read a statement to the police.
I want to make one quick distinction. I think if this had happened at night and she was for some reason in Central Park at like 10 p.m., which I think
was
you're not
early in
even
the morning.
supposed to be, it was during daytime. I saw the video. I could understand calling the cops when there's some dude near you at night. 100%. If it's daytime in Central Park, you're good. You're gonna be fine.
It's early
Almost
in the morning.
certainly.
No,
Yeah.
she had an overly
Also,
emotional
the
response.
idea
for
that none of
sure.
us, like everyone here has seen this video, almost probably
I
every person in
believe
the
that
audience
too.
has seen the video. You cannot successfully, unless like you're trying to just convince some people who have like a goldfish memory, you're not going to convince anyone that this guy was like cornering her. You're doing exactly the
I've seen
same
the
thing
video
that
too.
always
Her-
happens.
what's
You're
the
doing the
admitted-
exact same thing that
I've seen the video
conservatives
too, and
always
he
do.
admitted in
That
his Facebook
conservatives
post
always
that
do.
the
I know
dog
you're
was
really,
coming to
really
him, and that's
frustrated.
why she was
You don't have
freaking
any
out.
arguments. You just
That's
want to
why
talk
she's
shit.
choking
Why
at
don't
the
you let me
dog.
have a second?
Give it a second here. Okay, so
Yeah.
same rule as always. Two people talk at once. You don't get double.
Right,
You get
my
none of the
apologies.
information. Okay, so I'm going to give DemonMama 15 seconds, and I'm going to give Sean 15 seconds. Then we're going to wrap it up. Okay, as in move on to somebody else who wants to talk. DemonMama, you got 15 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing the same thing that conservatives always do, which is they try to make out the black guy who is likely to be the victim of police brutality to be some scary monster. It is a stereotype as old as time, right out of the handbook of the KKK, and anybody who knows anything about history can see it for what it is.
Okay, Sean, same amount of time.
Yeah. I wasn't making him out to be a scary monster. I was acknowledging that he's an agent and what he wrote himself and what he told to the police. Did she freak out? 100%. But dog moms are incredibly cringe. Bringing up the Klan is embarrassing. You should be embarrassed for doing that. Time.
Okay. Now I'm going to. Has anybody else risen their hand? I haven't actually seen that. Nope.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Does anybody else want to talk on this topic?
No, we move on.
Okay.
I mean, oh.
Oh, did you want to say? Well, Demo, if you want to throw something.
I wanted
out
to say one more thing. I think it's incredibly. It's funny that you should say it would be embarrassing to bring up the Klan when it's the Klan and other right wing groups have had a massive resurgence lately. I actually think it's really important that we bring up stuff like this. The Klan is a huge part of racial oppression in the history of the United States. Something that anybody with even a basic high school understanding of history would be able to recognize. I think it's preeminently relevant to how the police are weaponized against Black people in America, and I know you know that. You just don't care.
More people went to my college as undergraduates than there are active members of the Klan. So obviously throughout history, if you want to ignore linear time and say like, oh, I can't tell the difference between the past and the future when there are millions of members, then that's fine.
Wait,
but
can you tell me real quick?
The Klan is not a force.
Yeah, real quick. Can you just tell me like how many people need to be involved in a group that does horrible racist crimes and kills people for it to be taken seriously? That was like the weakest argument I think I've ever heard. But again, I've come to expect just that from you.
Now, the Klan was a huge problem when there were millions of members after Birth of a Nation. If you want to go into history.
Guess what? You want it to come back? People like you are helping to make it possible for that sort of thing. Because you play defense for people being racist.
That's exactly what's happening. You've diagnosed it perfectly.
Thank you. I know.
Okay. Seems like we finished up on this topic. Might as well move on to the next one. Okay, so obviously, with recent shootings, there's been a resurgence of questions about gun control in this country. Do you think that there should be a push for more gun control legislation in this country? Or should there be no more gun control legislation? Or in fact, should there be less gun control legislation? I'll just throw it up in the air. Anybody who's willing to take it by the horns.
There should be no gun control. I'm gonna just say that.
Okay, that's hilarious. Can we have some serious opinions here?
Does anyone with a cerebellum want to talk?
Do you want to attack the argument, buddy?
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not your buddy, by the way.
We can all do that.
Who here is like the
Sure, my
most
buddy.
anti-gun? Who's like pro strong regulation, taking away AR-15s and stuff? Start with that, maybe. I feel like we all.
Sorry, we're most of us are leftists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Well,
nothing will get gun control faster than a bunch of LGBTQ members having guns, dude.
True.
Like as soon as a bunch of minority groups start having guns, you watch the Republicans. You watch them. You see pride parades with AR-15s. Guess what's gonna fucking happen? Guess what's gonna fucking happen? You're gonna be like, oh, you know what? You know what we shouldn't do? Let these dirty leftist Antifa have access to weapons. You know that's exactly what's gonna fucking happen. I bet. So go ahead, go buy all your weapons because, frankly, I think you need them to protect yourself against the police at this point. So go for it. Do it. Go ahead and buy yourself an AR-15 if you are a marginalized a member of a marginalized group. Absolutely do it because the Republicans will turn fucking coat immediately and be like, we should absolutely sensible gun control on terrorist leftists. Okay, and you're gonna see Fox and Sean Hannity's gonna be like, well, I can own a gun, but if you have brown skin, you can't. And you know, shit like that. It's always gonna happen. They're gonna be
all you do is overgeneralize. The only thing that you've done on this entire panel is overgeneralize and just assume things and just assume what people are gonna do. You don't actually attack an argument, bro. You are fucking cringe, bro. You are cringe. All you do is overgeneralize.
Sorry, was the argument your statement that said, I don't think there should be any gun control whatsoever?
Yeah,
so like you would be okay then. So wait, I just want to be clear. Wait, hold on a second.
Go ahead.
I want to be really clear here, real quick. Do you think that you should be able to take a otherwise helicopter mounted machine gun, put that in the back of your truck and drive through town, literally melting buildings with uranium tipped bullets that are cutting through, blowing up school children before the police are able to stop you? Oh, wait, they can't because their APCs are going to get blown up by your giant machine gun. Like, is that the type of thing? Because when you say something
you're talking about like an actual crime. You're talking about, dude, how bad of a fucking straw man is that? No one said about actually
literally
melting.
Walked in here and said,
I said zero. What is gun
control?
control? Hey, buddy, what is it? What is gun control?
Hey, wait, gun control? Wait.
What is gun control?
Is a term
because you're conflating that with just mowing down like buildings. That's not.
So hold on, let me ask you this: Do you believe that you should be able? Do you believe that you should be able to put a like buy an 18-wheeler and mount a giant artillery cannon on the back if you desire? Do you believe that you should be able to do that? You should be able to have an 18-wheeler that you buy with your own money and put a giant cannon,
put a Scud missile on that fucker.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe let's just say you don't actually level the town. Do you think you should be able to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
That is the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard.
All
And this is
you're
exactly
doing
why.
is again, you're not actually attacking. You're not actually attacking the argument.
No, hold on a second. Wait, you have to actually let me. You want me to attack that?
You guys are shitty debaters. You can't actually attack the argument itself. So all you're saying is, "Oh, that's fucking stupid."
Okay, well, listen. Next time
really
you want to, next time you want people to
you
go
are
like
cringe. You are cringe.
Congratulations, you've done nothing.
And
if you want me to be able to argue,
all you've done is say, "I don't like that."
We are putting a halt to this right now because we have a minute left and we have the straw poll out there. And so if you want your person to stay, you got to vote in the straw poll because we just had Bastiat join, which means Bastiat, you're gonna watch as one of your compadres are thrown over the top rope. Okay.
Oh, holy macaroni. First of all, is the audio's through Whereby as well, right?
Yeah, it's only through Whereby today.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Good to be here just in time.
Do you think if you win tonight and get another shot at Vosh, you'll win this time in the rematch?
Oh, we're going right back to Coconut Island, buddy. All right.
Back to Coconut
I love
Island.
how much every time I talk to you, you sound like if boat shoes were a person.
That's because I am. If boat shoes were,
and I fucking love you for it. Okay?
All right. I
it's absolutely beautiful.
Okay, we have 30 seconds left for voting. Go vote in the straw poll.
Okay, so can Demon actually address like the issue, or all is he going to say is just that's fucking stupid? So what is he?
Are you misgendering?
It's she or just use their name, please.
Yeah. For what?
But
DemonMama.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh, is that I didn't know that was a trans person. I just thought that was with long hair. I don't know.
Sure. I don't really care.
I didn't
here
even
we go.
know she was trans.
There you go. Let's just talk about this. What you're talking about is so absurd that I don't think that most people really need to put a formal argument. But if you'd like me to,
I hate to do it. I hate to do it.
So you're intellectually incapable.
I hate to do it.
Okay,
the time is up. The time is up. We have to actually cut to it right now. Let me look at the DMs we've gotten from the judges.
Saved by that.
Ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble for this one.
Come on after.
Shoeonhead, I'm sorry. You've been thrown over the top rope.
Okay. All right. This is fun, guys. I hope to do this again one day. Bye.
I'm confused how the voting works.
Wait.
Okay, let me be clear. The
I'm
votes
100%
are done,
confused.
but then the judges look at the votes and they make their own evaluations, and that's
based on like bottom.
Basically, they look at who's on the bottom, lower half, and then they judge on top of their own judgments of it. It's like a judge. You know how boxing works? It isn't like how the audience votes at home.
Like the Electoral College.
Judges.
All right.
Super delegate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like super
So
delegate.
if you're bottom half, you get
you get put on a list, and they look at them and they decide.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
All right, very important. I started this by drinking coffee. I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be back.
Okay. You can all continue talking about gun control. So Tyler, I'm interested. You said no gun control?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to know. Do you support the police? Like, are you a big like Blue Lives Matter guy, or are you like fuck the police?
I do not support Blue Lives Matter.
Are you a libertarian then? Is that
No,
I just want to know.
I'm not a libertarian. No.
Okay, so I need to understand what your political motivations are behind no gun control.
Liberty.
Okay, so you're not a libertarian, but your main thing is liberty on that?
Correct.
Wait,
Okay.
sir, do you vote?
Okay.
I do.
Did you want me to put an argument for this? I'm gonna take the bait this one time for the purpose of the audience, which is that if there is a huge problem with the idea of people being able to arm themselves in any way imaginable, if you like the idea of your child going out in the backyard and going and picking flowers, and then they accidentally take one step over into your neighbor's property and they step on a landmine and your child is blown limb from limb because of people like Tyler Bluntman's policies, that is the world for you. You want to follow his view of the world. If you want to have your village bombarded by the local Jeff Bezos, who's decided to weaponize an army of delivery drones to drop bombs or machine guns over the neighbor, that's the type of world you want to fight for. The idea that we would have a world with no gun control is absolutely absurd. It's so absurd that it might as well be like, well, yes, why don't we implement the Ministry of Magic in America? It's the same level of stupid bullshit. But I felt like I wanted to explain that. Secondly, I do support gun rights, but come on, this is ridiculous. You do not need to have people walking around with hand grenades, landmines, heavy machine guns, sniper rifles all over the street to try and preserve some sense of liberty. In fact, that would ruin any concept of liberty that we have, because you can't be free to live in a world where somebody who doesn't like you can buy a 50 caliber machine gun and shoot you from a mile away. You cannot live freely in that world.
Tyler, is it out of curiosity, as somebody who often defends gun rights on streams like this, is it your position when you say no gun control? Do you just mean like don't ban assault rifles, or do you mean like what basically DemonMama has just said?
Yeah, he said he wanted like a cannon.
No, because Demon didn't actually no. So for one, so when I'm talking about no gun control, I'm talking about there can not be any type of government enforced gun control. That does not mean that I don't believe in some type of regulation, but it's not for the government to impose those things.
Who would impose it?
When Demon is
who would impose it?
From what? Obtaining a weapon?
Who would impose regulation if not the government?
What type of regulation?
Any whatever regulation you're for, any regulation that you're for, who enforces that? The individual.
So if you're talking about who would obtain, like from obtaining a certain weapon, then that would be on like private business owners.
I'm answering
your question.
Hold on, no. This is stop. A private business owner whose only incentive is to gain capital is going to, out of the good conscience of their heart, decide not to give someone fucking like landmines, bazookas, Molotov cocktails. They have fucking money to make. Why would they not do that? We see this problem with capitalism all the time. The free market doesn't adjust for itself. It tries to minimize. It doesn't involve ethics into its deception at all. It involves only maximizing profit and maximizing capital. The idea that you think that capitalists are going to do so is incredible.
We gotta let
Tom respond. Just to be clear, you're saying that citizens shouldn't own like grenades or any type of like explosive.
What is that not reasonable for not have explosive devices?
That's completely fucking unreasonable.
What?
So
let him explain.
So hold on. So you understand that the government owns these things, right?
Owns what? Oh,
Do
yeah.
you understand,
the grenades, yeah.
Do you understand that the government owns
the government,
weapons that we
just to
don't?
be clear, I
so you
that the government owns grenades.
Okay.
Real quick, I'm talking to Jake real quick. I'm trying to respond to Jake, man.
I'm shutting it down. Okay. So one person talks at a time now.
I'm trying to respond to Jake.
I know. But now I'm going to tell people when they can talk. That's the next 5 minutes. And then when order is restored, then we'll get back to the Rumble. Tyler, you respond to people being concerned about the grenades.
Yeah. So my point that I'm making here is that the only way that you could say that you could really defend that citizens should not have the ability to own like explosives and higher capacity weapons or whatever, military grade, whatever you want to label it as, that would have to go against by saying that, okay, well then the government would never inflict tyranny upon its citizens. The government has already bombed its citizens, right? So to say that they wouldn't do things like this, and to say that how would we attack them? How would we overthrow said government, right? If we don't have these weapons, it's going to make it increasingly more difficult to be able to overthrow a tyrannical government. Do you understand that?
Okay. So you wouldn't be able to have a tyrannical government because everything would fall apart. Immediately everything would fall apart. The reason you can't have grenades, I can't believe I'm explaining this to an adult human person, but I'm going to. The reason you can't have grenades is because they explode.
We've had grenades explosives. We have had grenades before. Do you even know the history?
Actually, did you tell me the history of privately owned grenades? I didn't know this
explode
and
people
come on, Jake, don't deprive us of this.
Massive destruction in
but
an area,
apparently they used to be allowed. Let's hear about that.
We had grenades in the 1800s, buddy. We had warships, right? We had every single thing that the military had.
1800s?
Yes.
We also had fucking horses.
It is true that there were privately owned.
One at a time. Okay. So I don't think anybody understood me. So I forgot to ask again. Does anybody here have hearing problems of any sort? Raise your hand if you do.
I have tinnitus, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean.
Okay. But did you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to now choose who speaks.
Jeez, we need privately owned hand grenades to deal with moderator Dylan here, you tyrant.
Okay. So Tyler just said that there were hand grenades in the 1800s. So I'm going to throw it over to whoever raises their hand and I want to speak. Okay. DemonMama hasn't got to speak in a while. Bastiat just got here, so I do think it should go to Bastiat, then DemonMama, then Denims. There you go.
Yeah.
Then Jay will be last.
There's a huge problem with this argument that you need to be able to have grenades to fight back against the government. You will not stand a chance against an organized military. It will not happen.
Why?
No militia will ever do that.
Why?
Because it will not happen. It
because,
simply is not feasible. No, listen.
Strikes.
The state.
Because they have higher. Because they have
Wait. Okay, I'm now going to mute everyone except for the person talking. You will not turn your mic back on until I've told you to do so. Okay? So it's going to be DemonMama. Then this is directed at Tyler, so Tyler will be able to respond. Then it'll go through the ringer as everybody like piles on. Sean, I saw you raise your hand. Don't worry, you'll get a time to talk as well. DemonMama, continue.
Okay, so anybody who knows once again, a small drop of information about the military will know that the military's biggest strength comes from extremely advanced, extremely expensive technology, which no individual person could do. Most billionaires cannot afford that. Secondly, from training. The military is a massive state organ with incredibly, incredibly well-trained people. No militia, no matter how well-trained, will ever stand a chance against the United States military. The fact of the matter is that there is no circumstance that we can think of in which the federal government would have, first of all, have any reason to attack its own citizens. And part of the reason for that is because we have a robust democratic and power check system. Now, the value of owning guns, which I support, by the way, I am a pro-gun lefty. The value of owning guns comes in community local defense. That's where it comes from. Not from this idiotic idea that you're going to be able, you and your fucking friends in your pickup truck are going to be able to throw some grenades at a government agent. No, you are going to get owned. You will be killed by drones that can literally pick you out while you're sitting on the toilet just trying to go to the bathroom. They will kill you and nobody will even know. And it is ridiculous to think that you can do otherwise. It is literally in the realm of fantasy land. The reason we talk about gun control and gun ownership is because there is value that comes from communal gun ownership, whether it's from being organized together to be able to defend in the case of, I don't know, a fucking local war, like two towns start fighting each other, or two gangs start fighting each other, or a white nationalist group starts fighting a bunch of queer people or black people or whatever. That is the value of gun ownership, not this fantasy idea of you and your buddies getting in your Blue Lives Matter painted truck and driving towards the Capitol, where you will immediately be vaporized by technology you didn't even know existed, because no one, not even billionaires, can go against an organized military that is the most powerful military in the world. Just, it's ridiculous. It's hilarious and childish.
Okay, now it's going to be Tyler. Respond to that. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. All right, my bad. Just had to unmute myself. Okay, so this is hilarious. So saying that we don't stand a chance against the military because citizens don't have the weaponry needed to attack the military, while I'm saying, okay, well, let's give citizens and make sure that citizens do have access to this type of weaponry. But you're just like, nah, it's just fucking hilarious. Like, you're not actually attacking anything. You aren't actually attacking anything. You're just saying, oh well, we cannot outdo the government because the government has better weapons than citizens. I'm like, okay, so then citizens should have these weapons, right? You're just like, well, no. And then you're talking about how many people are even in the military? You're talking about between 2 to 4 million people. If the government all banded together, you're talking about inactive and active military. You're talking about police, everybody, even going against. I mean, you have what here in the United States, you have what is it, like 110 million people between the ages of like 18 and like 60. Even if we went against the government today with being outgunned, I would still likely put it on us to win. But I think that there would be many more casualties that are unnecessary. So it's just fucking hilarious that you're just gonna say that we don't have the weapons needed to attack the government when I'm saying we should have the weapons. You're just like, nah.
Okay.
Can I respond to that just real quick? I have a real quick response.
Sadly not. Because the thing is, everybody's piling on one person, so people are gonna pick it up after you. Don't worry. Bastiat, you're next. You are muted, Bastiat. You can unmute yourself.
Thanks. So admittedly, DemonMama, I don't really understand your point about community self-defense. It just seems like a smaller version of what Tyler's discussing. I understand the idea of guns for self-defense, but like town violence, I don't get that. But maybe we can discuss that afterward.
Anytime you'd like. Yeah.
The point that Tyler, though, that you're making, I guess it seems like when I think historically about, I guess, successful revolutions against tyrants, they typically have involved some factions of the existing military or the existing civil society sort of peeling off from that civil society and engaging some kind of insurrection, whether it be, say, the Russian Revolution, where some of the troops, just refused to enforce the Tsar's laws, or, to think of a counter, a very bad example, the Spanish Civil War, where the military rose up against the government. But typically, though, it's not just the government acts in unison against the people, or the people act in unison against the government. So that's one thing, I guess, doesn't really make a lot of sense. This idea that there would ever be this kind of war where the government, is just against the people. But the other thing is that if you're serious about protecting freedom, then it seems like rather than thinking about some kind of deterrence, with respect to weapons, you would want to be more active in participating in civil society, in the democratic institutions that on an everyday basis help prevent us from getting to a situation where the government actively tyrannizes people. So, suppose, I guess what I mean here is instead of buying grenades or rocket launchers or private battleships, and, it is interesting. There's a history of private battleships in this country, letters of marque during the Revolutionary War and stuff. But instead of that, you would maybe want to go like to your local city commission planning board meeting and talk about why you should abolish single family zoning, make housing more affordable, participate in government. I just finished this point. Participate in democratic government rather than just kind of, I guess, withdraw and imagine that there's imagine that, if we buy enough grenades, they will never come for our freedom.
Well, no, that's not the point.
Bastiat,
That's not the point that I'm making. That's not the point that I'm
big
making.
bomb go boom.
My big question to you would be like, why can't I do both of those things at the same time?
Well, I think the thing with certain types of weapons, I guess, as somebody who, often argues against gun control, there's certain classes of weapons that inevitably lead to third-party harms even when properly used. Like, I guess that's the argument for why we don't have private nuclear weapons or private tanks. If you fire
we do have private tanks.
Well, why we shouldn't have privately owned tanks that have privately owned guns that privately
I think that's also
because there are third-party harms there. I can fire a gun at somebody in self-defense, and there's not an inevitable third-party harm, right? But if I use explosives,
right,
that risk of third-party harm is very great, right? So it goes beyond just me and the person who maybe is attacking my property or attacking my person or something, right? And so there, I think, is a clearer case for some kinds of weapons that their use inevitably comes with collateral damage, or is very likely to, compared to, say, a handgun or an assault rifle, which these are deadly weapons, but they are less likely to.
Quick for chat. I just want to make clear. In the straw poll, you are voting. Whoever wins this will be debating Vosh next Friday. So be clear that the person you're voting for, you want to see going head to head next Friday. I see a lot of people confused exactly about what the winner will get. So next was, I think it was Denims, Actual, Jake, then Sean. But I think, Tyler, did you want to respond to any of that?
Yeah, just a couple things there. So for one, you bring up the tank situation, which I think is a very interesting perspective. I mean, we have anywhere from a couple hundred to up to 1,000 privately owned citizens right now who have tanks, and it's not like you can't obtain shells for these tanks. You can absolutely obtain these shells. And I mean, can you name one incident here in the United States where someone has taken this tank and just mowed cities down or mowed blocks down? I think the only one I think the only one that you'll be able to come up with is one where they didn't actually fire these guns. What instance are you going to bring up?
Well, there was one where somebody stole a tank from military.
Yes, but they didn't. But they didn't. There were zero casualties. They
killed Dozer.
One second.
But I had no idea, though, that
we gotta move it on because we don't have a lot of time. I'm gonna have to extend this round a little bit because I want to make sure I don't want people to get voted off because they just didn't get a shot. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Quick, I want to give it to Sean, Denims, then Jake in that order. Sean.
Okay. So 2 quick points. Like, we never even got into like any reasonable like gun control legislation discussion and all that. And I do agree with Tyler that the purpose of the Second Amendment is to fight back against a tyrannical government. But you don't need like armaments in order to do that. Like, I completely disagree with the U.S. military would crush the United States citizen. We have 300 million guns, and we've already shown through our misadventures in Iraq and Afghanistan that an insurgent force is not easily conquerable by the United States military. And these people don't have any, like, we destroyed the Iraqi military incredibly quickly, but it's the people with small arms that are organized in small groups that we cannot handle. Also, on top of that, while individual billionaires might not have the sophisticated armaments in order to fight back against the government, military contractors make up the bulk of our forces in our foreign adventures. So private force is already, in some respects, not in all respects, comparable to the government. Now, the private military forces work for the United States government primarily, but we're going to find out post-Iraq war, post-Afghanistan war, whenever that happens, what's going to happen to this new industry of private force that we've created. So, yeah, you can fight back against the federal government with the 300 million guns that are present in the United States of America. Like, we can't conquer Iraq or Afghanistan. It's been proven. So, I don't know what the case is against that, but I'll let somebody else have the floor.
I could argue
It
against
was
that.
Denims. It was Denims first, right? Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for Denims.
It was Denims, and then actual check.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be fast. Okay, first, I'm not going to respond to Sean because I was already going to respond to Tyler with some of the other stuff. For starters, I'm going to make two separate arguments. A, the average civilian is not going to even get close to the tech that the government has. There is no amount of money that the average civilian is never going to have the amount of money that they need to buy an entire SWAT teams, entire drone strikes, like fighter jets and shit. You just don't. And then the only people who might be able to afford this is billionaires. And you know what? Maybe I don't want a bunch of billionaires owning a fuck ton of fighter jets. Just an idea. Second of all, I would like the freedom to go to the supermarket and not worry that the entire building is going to get bombed. Can you imagine? I'm sorry, the dude who was on the news like last or whatever, the dude who was at the salon, he killed 8 people. Can you imagine if he had like bombs and shit on him and that was legal for him to have? Are you kidding me? Like, I'm sorry, we already have enough people dying, okay? Look, there is the freedom to own things in America, which I love. You know, I want to be able to own as many fucking whatever the fucks I want. But I also want the freedom to be able to go places in public and not worry that the buildings are going to start collapsing because I don't know who has a bomb on them.
Okay, next is going to be well, Tyler, you can respond to that, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So for one, okay, so then I guess I would ask you, if most citizens aren't going to be able to have the funds to obtain these weapons, then what are you crying about? What are you crying about gun control about if you say that most people aren't even going to have access to
some will.
Hold on, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Denims.
About billionaires having a fuck ton of bombs. I don't want fucking billionaires who are not necessarily the most great.
I don't really give a shit. I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, what does that matter? You
just asked who could have them, and
I don't really give a shit what you want. I can't do you have any data? I'll ask you this: do you have any data to back up that if billionaires had these grenades or bombs, that somehow people would be like more unsafe? Do you have like data to back this up?
Claiming that's not even
okay.
Close
So you're just crying.
I'm saying the people who force people to pee in bottles. I'm not sure I want those people to have.
Okay, so you're just crying. Okay, so you're just crying.
Okay. It sounds like you're not capable of recognizing where people's positive freedoms come from. I promise you. Please look it up. It's really important.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Next is gonna be
when a woman says something, your response is Karen. Like what the every time.
Didn't you call me Jared, buddy?
Yes, Jared, I did.
Okay.
What does Jared mean?
Don't worry about it. Well, I'll explain it to you later. So as far as Sean's take on like, look at the success stories of the Mujahideen and the brave soldiers of Vietnam and it's like their countries were fucked for years because of our military industrial complex. Do you think that we want to live in a fucking cave, bro? Is that like what you want, insurgency? Like that's the idea here?
Didn't North Vietnam win?
What? No.
Didn't they? We didn't win that one. Though.
At what cost is the point, right?
Yeah, but we didn't win.
Listen,
they won.
No. I'm saying hold on.
Superior military force. Not
and
that
actually,
I want
to bring
that
up Vietnam is
hold
quite
on.
interesting.
It's still my turn,
to
though.
support Tyler's point.
It is still my turn.
Countries would help.
But it's it's still my turn.
Jake, it is your turn. Yes, technically.
Thank you very much. Well, you're gonna have to wait, okay, Your Honor. So as far as that shit, like there's this like fucking there's like this pipe dream that like we're gonna take up arms against the tyrannical government. You're not. You're gonna get fucking blown up immediately, and then people will be dissuaded immediately because of drone strikes. I'm sorry, they won the arms race long ago. And as far as the 1800s grenades, have you seen those things? They look like lawn darts. They don't have shrapnel in them. They just go gunpowder, and they made it like ceramic and shit. As far as like the proliferation of guns and having billionaires being able to have fucking private militaries, how can you not see how that's bad? You don't want tyranny? How about not having hundreds of tyrants on the coasts and anywhere there is a billionaire just making fucking like I don't know what like fucking their own little fiefdoms because they own all the weapons in the area and they've somehow locked down the local water supply. Now like that's literally what's going to happen. It's literally just tyranny, but you allow capitalism to provide the catalyst to create the tyranny rather than at least having some sort of government powers of separation.
Where's the proof that that's gonna happen?
What do you mean the proof it's gonna happen? Literally the Dark Ages.
By the way, there's a really huge
monopoly of
gaping
violence is
problem.
how the Dark Ages were proliferated.
I want to make sure that Tyler has the time to respond. I see Sean.
He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to Bastiat.
I mean, I
okay.
should be able to respond, is what I'm saying.
Or Sean? No, he was talking to Sean. I'm sorry, my bad.
He was talking to Sean. I'm sorry. Sorry. It just seemed everybody was piling on Tyler. It's hard to see.
It was both.
Not piling on Tyler.
Right.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah, that's why I jumped in. I want to offer some critical support for Tyler here.
Well, my point that I wanted to make in response is that I never said Iraq and Afghanistan is ideal. My point was this is an example of a small arms force fighting against the best trained, most well-equipped military in the history of the world. Like, we have not been able to conquer them. You brought up Vietnam. I don't know why. It totally
Wait, hold on. What was
your point?
I need to ask, what do you mean by conquering?
Firepower against the Vietnamese as well. The whole point is, if the government was tyrannical, could we bog down that tyrannical government in a never-ending struggle where they'll eventually give up? The United States will give up on Afghanistan. That's what's going to happen.
But will they give up on themselves?
We gotta cut it. We have already gone 10 minutes over the actual vote time. So we have to, but don't worry, you're gonna have more time to talk about this. We're just gonna kick somebody off. So you might actually not get more time to talk about this. Okay, so the judges have sent me their votes. Okay. 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 So the votes are in, and they're again a split vote. The first vote for somebody to be kicked is Sean. The second vote for somebody to be kicked is Denims. And the third vote for somebody to be kicked is Denims. I'm very sorry, Denims. You've been voted off by the judges.
Thank you so much for having me, sir.
I was happy to have you. Hey, you made it to the final six, though.
True. All right, we'll have a good one. I'm Denims, twitch.tv/Denims. I stream at 6 a.m. PST every single day.
And chair shot. Done. Okay, so now we're down to the final five. Now there will be no more audience voting. Your votes now are worthless, like real democracy. Now it will be decided only by the judges, which the audience is showing their appreciation for right now in chat.
They're mad.
They seemed very happy.
They don't like that.
They look very happy to me.
You stripped them of their voice.
Screw these plebes.
I mean, I'm the Electoral College. Anyway.
Can we pass water to them
we
still?
don't need them.
So now we will continue to talk on gun control. You may continue. Okay.
So
by the way, James, can you take over? I need to call somebody. It's really important.
Okay. Can I offer a little support to Tyler's position here, since everybody's dogpiling on him? I guess the one thing I would say is
you fucking
the argument. The only argument that Tyler's making that I have some sympathy for, because again, just to be clear, I think your prescription for gun control here is ridiculous. The idea that we should have none of it and that the purpose should primarily be to fight the government.
Yeah,
the point, though, I think that's ridiculous. And the way to preserve freedom is to participate in civil society actively rather than to rely on weapons. But if your argument, though, the argument here that you could never win, I don't think that's borne out really by like real experience here. I mean, the combination of a heavily armed population plus the inevitable foreign support that would come to anybody, I suppose, trying to overthrow the American government. I mean, the chances like greater, I think, than zero. Obviously, it would be bloody and brutal and miserable, but it certainly isn't like zero.
I suppose,
and it's certainly like, again, while Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, Afghanistan, I think is a little different because I don't think it's actually so cut and dry that it's just over and that we're just going to leave. People have been trying that one for a while. It ain't happened yet.
I mean,
but Vietnam and Iraq, though, by contrast, I mean, Vietnam, we didn't win that one, and Iraq mixed at best in terms of America achieving its outcomes there. So,
well, I mean,
yeah,
that was a pretty one-sided.
So
but that's pretty one-sided, though. Like, hold on a second. Wait, I want to respond to this. I've been wanting to respond to this for a minute. So, like, okay, so first of all, there's a couple of big problems with this. First of all, we can talk about Iraq all day long. The casualties on the U.S. side very high, and the casualties on the Iraqi side were ridiculous. Was it a smart move? No, of course not. There's a whole bunch of other reasons, but as far as the war goes, we pretty clearly won that one, unfortunately. Like that was
what would be the fortunate outcome there?
Wait, the fortunate outcome would have not been to go to war at all.
Okay,
that would have been
all right.
In what scenario? What was the war?
In the Iraq war?
Oh yeah,
I think we can all admit that like there were geopolitical issues that led to that not being a victory, not actually the military. We pretty much crushed military victory. Yeah. like the idea of us picking bad wars, but that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that there's a different problem in America, which is that we're going against the government that built this country, that can easily access all utilities. We're talking about, you would have to look at not a war where the US goes against an insurgent populace, but a war in which a highly technically powerful power goes against its own people. And I don't think we have a whole lot of precedent for that. And I don't think it's going to go well, especially when we know that every single consumer used product that we would use to like find our way around, everything from Google Maps and all of this, has back doors that are literally designed specifically for the government. The government will know everything and everywhere. Their technological advantage is ridiculous. And of course, on top of all of that, you have the fact that there are problems of scale, which is no matter how big of a people's militia that you put together, you will never, ever, ever be able to run a nuclear carrier. That will not happen. The US government has like 11, if I remember correctly, total. It's not going to happen. Like this is, I think that I recognize that there is an argument to be made for the power of insurgent forces, but let's be real. Most of those are born out of absolute desperation, and the results are not good. If you go look at countries where this happened, everywhere from Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, the cost was so great. And the reason why it was able to it even unfolded that way is because it was America saying, yeah, who cares? We can carpet bomb this place. And guess what? There's the countries are economically devastated. So this idea that like there would even be anything left to win at the end is ridiculous. I agree with you, Bastiat, though, at the very end of the day, that we should not look to solve these problems by some inevitable war, but that we should instead participate in building a better society. And yes, while I do think that there are specific instances in which having an armed community can be very, very valuable, that's because I don't believe that there is ever going to be a situation, and I should hope so, because it would be a horrible situation if it were to happen, where the federal government is at war with citizens in the United States, because that would be a dreadful affair.
What would you consider? What would you consider at war?
What would I consider at war? Well,
yeah.
I mean,
what would you classify it like? Just bombing citizens, or what would you consider?
Jake will be
There's a
right
lot of ways
after
to go.
Tyler. I'll give Tyler a chance to give a quick rebuttal.
And this new moderator is a freaking Chad. Holy moly! I've never seen this guy before.
So Demon, what would you consider just like a bombing?
I mean,
war? Like, what
I
would
don't
you
know. I
consider?
think that civil wars are a lot harder to determine. I would say that prolonged sieges, executions, killings, shootings on a daily basis would probably be considered a war. But again, I think the standards for what classifies a civil war are probably pretty complicated. It's not really my area of expertise.
So my thing is that I think our fundamental disagreement is that from what it sounds like, what you've just been saying over and over again, which is a lot of words, is just that we are not going to win. Well, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just saying.
I mean, I've heard that one like literally a thousand times.
You're just saying that, hey, well, citizens, you're not going to win. So what's the point, right? So my thing is that, well, no, even if you're saying that, well, it's unlikely that we're going to win, that seems to be more of a reason that, okay, well, then we need to make sure that we have this level of weaponry, right?
No.
So the government has bombed its citizens. The government goes against its citizens all the time. So to say, I know you're not saying that they wouldn't, but if they are doing those things, it makes logical sense that we would need the weapons that we need to minimize the casualties on our side when we
it exacerbates the casualties objectively.
Let me ask you this.
One sec. Eventually, just because Jake's been patiently waiting, so we'll give you maybe a really quick rebuttal, DemonMama, and then quick over to Jake.
So what I'm talking about is that it is simply not going to happen that you're going to win against the U.S. government. It will not happen. That is not going to be a winning situation. Yes, I'm saying that because it is like saying that, like, well, if we have a slightly bigger rifle, we'll lose, but with a bigger rifle. No, you have to prevent that from happening in the first place. We can acknowledge this, right? Like, imagine if the sun was going to explode. There's no way we could stop the sun from exploding, right? You would hope that there would be a way to avoid that ever happening in the first place. The goal is that we should use the reason why we have society, why we have governments, why we organize as people, is because we acknowledge the amount of ridiculous damage and pain that can come from ceaseless war. We acknowledge that war is not good, and that's why we build societies. It's called civilization. You don't run around in the woods killing each other with rocks because of whoever has the biggest rock, because we realize it's not a good way to live. So what I'm saying is, the answer is not hoping that you can raise enough money on your GoFundMe to fund a nuclear submarine, but instead that you could say, maybe we should avoid ever getting to the place where I would need to try and GoFundMe a nuclear submarine so I can fight back against the United States government.
I want to at least give Jake a quick one to kind of throw his hat into the ring here, Tyler. I promise we'll come right to you.
No problem. No problem.
Okay. But wanted to push back a little bit at Bastiat, and also this is the general conversation, I guess. The idea that maybe foreign countries like a China or something could see a civil unrest in the United States where the government is fighting with its people, and you'd have this insurgency, and then you'd have China join in and disrupt the government. That is not what right wingers are talking about when they want to overthrow a tyrannical government, right? They do not want someone else outside of our borders doing something within the borders. That's a foreigner, and that ain't good if you're a Republican. So that's what we're saying. Even if they say they're allied forces, eventually that would become the new tyranny, and then they would just go on again and say we need more guns. So the proliferation of this arms race that you can't win between a massive government and between individual people, even if there's 300 million of us, at best, your argument is to escalate violence, escalate the ability to kill people on a massive scale. Also, the catastrophic ramifications of having anything that has third-party interactions with it, like explosives, right? Any of that escalates the problem beyond what it was when you just were debating regular gun control. You can, for now, in this country, deal with it through societal change, as well as through sometimes you need some forms of political violence. Sure, like a BLM riot tipping over a car, these things happen. Race riots are things. Sometimes the tension gets to the point where it breaks and it needs to happen, but not to the point where you think you can actually overthrow or have a reasonable shot against anyone in 2021 as far as technology has gone. Yeah, maybe in the 1800s you could, when ceramic bombs were things and flintlocks were normal and rifling was rare. But I mean, as soon as that happened, it changed war forever. It made everything catastrophic. The reason we have SEAL Team 6 is because you don't have fucking musket balls firing at people anymore. You have precision weapons. You have precision strikes. You are not SEAL Team 6, bro. You're not going to be doing that.
So this is
not happening.
Well, what I want to do is, just to be fair, because we had heard from both DemonMama and then actual Jake, and so Tyler, if you have a quick one, I know Sean's had his hand up for a while too.
Okay. Yeah, so again, this is just the same. It's the same argument. The argument is just, well, because we don't think that we're going to be able to overthrow the government because they have weapons that we don't have, then we should further not have weapons that the government doesn't have. That the government has.
Not the argument.
It's so fucking. It's so. That is your argument.
That isn't. You're not listening.
So hold on. Did you not just say that so do you think that we could overthrow the government right now?
No, but that's not the reason.
Okay, why can't we?
But that's not the reason.
Why
technological differences? But that's not the argument.
It's not just technological differences. It's organizational differences, funding differences.
Also all of those things. Yes, of course.
And guess what? This is what it boils down to. It boils down to there's a trade-off.
Would it be easier if we had better weapons?
Wait, the trade-off fucking argument.
Well, I do want to kick it over to Sean, because Sean has been waiting a while. I hate to do this.
Yeah,
I think I can explain this afterwards.
So there's this weird thing where you're like, oh, the Iraqis and Afghanis, they took massive casualties. It's like, yeah, I mean, good thing that the American people have a numbers advantage. Obviously, it's a brutal war. Obviously, it's the last result. But the idea the United States has nuclear weapons, therefore they win. Sure, I mean, I guess, but nuking your own tax base when you're a government entity is not the best case scenario for a victory. So yeah, an insurgent force is extremely problematic, as is right now in the United States of America. To deny that is to deny reality. You have 150 million gun owners, or some ridiculous number like that in the US. You have a 3 million man army. Basic math, even with tactical superiority, weapons superiority, we've seen this before in Afghanistan, in Iraq. Obviously, Afghanistan and Iraq didn't beat back the US and win, but the US did not conquer them. That's the whole point. And unlike Afghanistan or Iraq, the United States government would have to fight amongst its own tax base that fuels the government. So yeah, the idea that we can't mount a resistance against the federal government is absolutely ridiculous.
But
you're probably going to get bogged down until the government goes bankrupt, sure, but like of course.
That's like the end point of the argument, not the actual argument, though.
For the United States military, and this is way off the point of gun control.
Right. The actual argument, the actual argument is not that eventually we're going to lose a war against America, although that is true. The actual argument is if you have gun proliferation or explosive proliferation, fucking any form of increased munitions among a populace, it lowers the quality of life significantly due to increased third-party violence experience. Like it is so brain dead. That's the argument. Not that eventually you're going to have tyranny. The only reason that it would rise to that occasion is because you created a fucking arms race. First of all,
I have a question for you, Jake, because I have a question for you. I have the same question for Demon as well. So I have a question for both of you. So we've gone very far off of this to like, because I said that I believe in zero gun control, but you didn't actually state like what level of gun control that both of you
reasonable
want. What does that mean?
Yeah.
We can all deliberate what reasonable means. But
so you don't know?
You disagree? No, I actually have a detailed plan. But do we want to get bogged down in what my particular
yes?
Detailed
I
plan
want to know what gun control would look like if you were in charge.
Has to say, and then we can, if we want to, we can dig into that.
All right. So I just want to say, I guess first of all, a small point on the gun, on the plausibility of pushing back on the government. I guess I would only say that, first of all, you know that these MAGA people love Russia and they love Putin. So they're happy to get some foreign support, I am sure, for one. And the founders, I mean, they hated France.
Yeah.
They hated France, but then they made all kinds of deals with France. So, I mean, but the real issue here, I guess, is that once again, and this seems to be a real big conservative debate tactic, is that we started talking about gun control, and then we immediately get sidetracked into the plausibility of basically the right-wing version of the revolution, which is to say this thing that is never going to happen, that is used to suppress discussion about actually improving society in some plausible, possible way. And at the end of the day, if your position is that we need these weapons to fight the government, you are making arguments that are so detached from reality, detached from anything that affects people in real life, that you may as well be talking, you may as well be in the same loony bin with those folks who say, look, we don't need to do anything about climate change. What we really need to do is overthrow capitalism, all right? And then we can think about climate change, because there's no hope for doing it under capitalism. You're just making the same kind of nonsensical argument here. You're appealing to some ahistorical, ridiculous event that's never going to happen, and it's fun to talk about. I enjoy memeing about it with everybody else here. But at the end of the day, if you want to have a serious discussion about gun control, and your point is we need these weapons to fight the most powerful government in the world, and that's how we're going to stop tyranny, it's ridiculous. And if that's the only argument you've got for it, I mean, we made a real, I think me and Jake, I don't know what Jake's position is on guns, but I think the two of us made a pretty clear argument for what reasonable might mean, which is to say a reasonable likelihood of third-party harms. And when you talk about a gun with a bullet that you can point at a person, and that's a conflict between two people, hey, maybe there's a really good and powerful liberty argument for that. And that's an argument I would be happy to make. On the other hand, when you're talking about explosives, all right, that destroy other people's property, that hit other people's lives, people who are not even involved in your dispute, well, that's something that I think there's a real clear, reasonable argument to say, look, in a society where we've acknowledged that we want a government, you're saying you're not a libertarian, you clearly, if you're not a libertarian, want to have some kind of government. The first and foremost purpose of the government is to be a monopoly of violence, right? Except in self-defense, we don't use violence in this society because we have a government, and that is the purpose of government. And if you don't think that's the purpose of government, then you are either a libertarian in denial because you like that MAGA hat, or you're inconsistent beyond belief.
This isn't a MAGA hat, buddy. It's a make abortion illegal again hat.
Oh, it's all the same nonsense.
It's not the same. I don't support Trump. So first,
all right, yeah. So I've got a red armband, but it's not a swastika, and I don't support the NSDAP guys. All right, it's very different. It's very different.
I don't
I'm not
vote for Trump.
here.
Hold on. You're just making the same assumptions that like leftists make. So I don't support Trump. I'm not a Republican. I don't support the Republican Party, nor do I support the Democratic Party. Right. So that's
he's a centrist.
So I'm not a centrist either. I'm an originalist. I'm an originalist. So
it's even worse.
So here we go. So when you're talking about things like bombs and grenades and things like that, when you have a regulation, because I would agree that if somebody is walking around with a bomb or a grenade or something like that, it could maybe go off for whatever reason and then harm innocent people, which is why I would be okay for a regulation against that. That doesn't actually go against the Second Amendment and your right to bear arms, right? But to say that you could not own a grenade in totality would absolutely go against the Second Amendment. And no, my argument is not only just to overthrow a tyrannical government, while that is an important piece, and I agree with the founders on that. My central argument is that is my right to do so. It is not your fucking concern if I want to own any weapon that I want to own.
It's literally my concern.
Right.
It is
Let's go straight to the topic. Private nuclear
Wait,
weapons, yes or no?
This for a second?
Let's go straight to the logical conclusion.
Yeah,
Private nuclear weapons, yes or no?
Of course he says yes.
So private nuclear weapons, you're fucking insane.
Okay, wait.
Because you don't know how to argue it. Because you don't know how to argue against it.
Insane argument that has ever been made on the Hippy Dippy.
Why are you yelling?
Okay, you're both being muted because I was talking and I've just gotten back. I had to deal with something, an aggravating situation. I'll talk about it on a different stream, but somebody's flying over to visit me, and they got stopped by TSA on the halfway point, and their plane's already taken off.
We can debate that.
So we can debate that. We can debate why TSA sucks. Wonderful.
TSA.
Okay, so we have talked for how long, James? I was gone. How long have this round gone on?
That's been a pretty good amount of time.
Okay, then I think it's time to get the judge's opinion. Okay. I've gotten one vote. Gotten a second vote. And I've gotten a third vote. You guys curious what the votes are?
Oh, yeah.
Only Corn Boy. Okay, well then.
Well, obviously.
Okay.
I'm here for you, Dylan.
The first vote to kick is for Sean. The second vote to kick is for actual Jake. The third vote to kick Wait, was I saying something? Oh, the third vote to kick. I'm sorry, actual Jake. You have to go.
Oh no, who are those judges? Those fools.
Danabo, Geek.
You in here, you scared? I'm kidding.
Danabo and Geek. You got to bring it to them. I'm sorry.
Wait, how do you not kick Sean? He was not really good in that round.
Judges. Yeah, it's not my fault. You got to blame the judges.
Hey, judges? Maybe have better quality judges, because gotta say,
go complain to Geek.
Underperformed.
Go complain to Geek, okay?
I'm definitely going to do that.
Okay. Twitch.tv/actual Jake.
Twitch.tv/actual Jake. Leftist corn politics.
Chair shot. Okay. Now we're down to the final four. And look at this. DemonMama, Bastiat,
yes,
Sean, and Tyler Bluntman. What do you think of this crew, Jake? James, sorry. Jake. You're
Indeed,
muted.
I'm very excited for this.
You're very excited? So do you think we should continue this talk on gun control?
Yeah.
Can I say something to Tyler?
I'm pretty done on
I don't want to go out on, if we're going to go out on this topic, I don't want to go out rude. Look, Tyler, I didn't mean to blow up there like a private nuclear weapon, but what gets me, why that's so frustrating to me is if you believe in liberty, all right, as it seems like you do, then presumably what you're most interested in is preventing third-party harms. That is to say, harms to people who don't consent to those harms, right? So if you engage in violence against somebody else, you've basically consented to violence against yourself in a sense, you know.
Agreed.
If you engage in, but when you're using weapons like say nuclear weapons, what you're doing, it's impossible to avoid that kind of harm, and that's why at a certain weapon or at a certain point, like that's why your argument just seems to be so irrational. It seems like you were clinging to consistency despite all reality.
I am consistent, but let me go ahead and address what you're saying. So what is your if I could just have 5 minutes with Bastiat right here, just so we can have kind of like a quick conversation. So Bastiat, what is your main concern? Or I would ask you this: at what level should we limit guns or weapons in general? Like, where would you stop it?
If there's a very likely third-party harm, right, I think there's a very reasonable case for a limitation. And so I'd start with, and again, I go to the nuclear weapon for the point of starting, I guess, to go with the principle, right? If you set off a nuclear device anywhere in the world, you have created not just the blast, not just the heat, right? But you have also the radiation and the fallout, and that affects entire continents, right? There is no way to use the nuclear weapon without causing third-party harm to somebody. So that, therefore, clear case of we got to ban it, you know? And then you go down from there with other types of weapons.
Okay, so let me ask. So let me go ahead and address this real quick. Okay. So for someone again, so I'm very Second Amendment, right? I'm very on that, right? But that does not mean that you could not have regulations that wouldn't technically violate the Second Amendment. So when you're talking about like a nuclear weapon, if someone were to, first of all, you'd have to have like $10 billion to even afford a real nuclear weapon anyway. But in order to have a nuclear weapon, like you said, you could have radiation and it could affect third parties. And I absolutely agree with you, which is why if you were to be able to own a nuclear weapon under my moral framework, then you would need to have the mass amounts of land to where you'd have to have like 100 to 300 square miles. So if that nuclear weapon happened to go off, it would only affect you and your property. You couldn't just have your next door neighbor that lives in a fucking townhome own a nuclear fucking weapon, right? So as long as you were
so many problems with this.
So as long as you had that, then that would be fine, right?
I'll just say my bit, and then I'll stop talking because I've been going for a while.
Because I was talking.
I'll just respond to this, and then I'll stop, and it's up to you, DemonMama. All right, and then I'm done. All right. Look, right there is just an example of why this position makes no sense. All right, even if you're saying you have to own enough land to be able to set off your nuclear weapon and cause no harm to somebody else, and again, that would mean you would have to own. Again, if we're talking about fallout, which would be a real harm to the people who breathe it in,
hundreds of square
cancer,
miles,
right? That's the entire continental United States to avoid fallout. If you look at fallout patterns because you find nuclear weapons fascinating, as I do, then fallout travels with the wind stream across continents. All right, there's no avoiding that. All right, so the position there again. I respect how, and I'm really trying to be as charitable as I can here with a position that is, as I've said, I think very defensively insane. But what you're trying to do here is you are clinging to a logical consistency despite all reality to defend, I think, a position where I don't think you need to do that. I think you just need to say, I think you can make that argument of what is a reasonable, right? What is a reasonable risk of third-party harms? And instead of saying, I need to consider everything, including the nuclear weapon, maybe we could start a little lower and you could make your case somewhere else and concede that the nuclear weapon, that's always going to cause third-party harms. If you're not willing to do that, then it seems like you are just sticking to ideology because you desire consistency beyond any kind of rational real-world consideration, and that just seems like nonsense.
Oh, I mean, I don't even think goes that far. I mean, Tyler has already walked back, like cowardly retreated from his position at the beginning, and now it's like, well, maybe there can be regulation. Here's the problem: even if you want,
I always say that there could be regulations,
and just say, that's not what you sounded at the beginning when I asked if you should be able to mount a giant artillery stand in the back. You didn't even.
Yes, there shouldn't be regulations against that.
Because
there shouldn't be regulations. So now you're just overgeneralizing regulation.
No,
so if you're talking about some type of regulation,
and you can't own up to it. You can't
you're not even attacking my position.
I'm not your bro.
You're not even strawmanning me. You're just committing like non sequiturs. You're attacking arguments that I've never made.
You're super triggered right now.
I never made.
Really funny.
I'm triggered.
It's just at the very
triggered when I called you a buddy.
Wait a second. Hold on a second.
Triggered when I called you a buddy.
Yo, calm down.
Oh, I'm the snowflake buddy.
I know you are super frustrated. It's actually hilarious. Yeah, you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy. Go ahead.
Smuggling is great.
Yeah,
so,
ahead,
so at the very beginning of this conversation, I very clearly asked you. You think that somebody should be able to mount a giant cannon on the back of an 18-wheeler, and you said yes. Now you're like, well, actually, they can't actually do that. Well, here's the problem.
I never said that. You can do that. I'm talking about his regulation of nuclear weapons. You are strawmanning the shit out of me. Do you know how to? Do you know how to debate without using logical fallacies?
You are so hilariously triggered right now. You literally won't even
using logical fallacies.
You literally won't even let your opponent talk.
It was ad hom, overgeneralized, and strawman.
Shutting it down. Sean wanted to talk earlier.
Cringe.
Sean.
Yeah.
So got to say my position.
Tyler's position
because you're logically fallacious. You are a walking logical fallacy.
Okay,
nice try.
We're going to bring it over to Sean, and then afterwards we'll bring it back. Hopefully, and there'll be a little less interrupting. Sean.
So Tyler's position is essentially governments are instituted among men. We can only give governments rights that we already have. Therefore, nuclear weapons. I don't agree with it. I agree with Bastiat. Like, this goes up into the atmosphere. it affects generations to come when you use this weapon. Obviously, that's way too far. But like to say that you can't have regulations on nuclear weapons is not the same thing as saying that you don't want regulations on guns. It was gun control that he was talking about earlier. And nuclear weapon, we are so far removed from something using gunpowder to shoot a projectile into somebody when we're talking about that this conversation has become completely pointless. Like, we're not even talking about legislation or anything like that. And it's, it is what it is. It's where the panel goes naturally. But yeah, I do agree with Bastiat on that. But I understand the philosophical framework in which Tyler is operating under. If government is instituted among men, they should not be able to do things that we as individual citizens can't do. That's the idea, right?
I just if nobody else is jumping in, the point you just made, Sean.
One second. I do want to say, DemonMama did never get to finish their point. So
okay.
Thank you. Finish the point. Then Tyler will respond. Then we'll throw the boss.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. So there is a number of problems. The government is always going to be able to do some things that the people cannot. That is just a fact of any government, unless you want to go like full on anarchy and talk about like non-governmental systems, which is a whole different conversation. That will always be the case. The government will always be able to do some things. Now, there is a problem with weapons that goes beyond just whether somebody can own something on their property. You see, because if you own something that can cause mass damage, and we don't even need to go all the way to nukes, I can talk about something like a canister of white phosphorus gas that if even accidentally discharged could kill and horribly, torturously kill a lot of people. And if somebody got real mad, even if it wasn't the owner, they grabbed that canister, rolled it into a school, suddenly you have a whole bunch of dead people. And it's horrifying and disgusting. Now, the reason that we all know that it is possible for people to illegally acquire certain arms, but every time you make that more difficult, it becomes more and more likely that we will be able to stop someone from ever getting their hands on such weapons. This is not like some sort of wild position. It's just true. Even in countries that restrict gun ownership, it becomes harder and harder for gun crimes to be done because it becomes more and more difficult to get a gun without tripping an alarm bell. Now, I think that gun ownership is fine, largely because I think that guns can be reasonably controlled to a immediate conflict. But we can recognize that many, many types of guns, such as mounted machine guns, automatic weapons, super long-range sniper rifles with explosive rounds, poison gas, biological agents. These are all things that under Tyler's system that he said here, people should be able to own, despite the fact that the moment you let one person own those, or reality, a lot of people who would buy them because of a novelty and all kinds of stuff, you suddenly have a bunch of weapons that could do a whole lot of damage, kill a whole lot of people standing around. And the likelihood that you will ever use those weapons against some tyrannical government is so low, and we're paying such a price. All it takes is one kid, you have a party over, your kids are, your kids are having a party, your kid runs into the little display room where you have your canister of nerve gas, and he's like, "What's this, daddy?" Instantly, party dead, all dead in the blink of an eye. And you want that type of world? That's ridiculous. This is so patently ridiculous. And you don't even need to go to nukes to get to that position. You could say this about a lot of things. Did you know it's a really common occurrence in America for toddlers to pick up guns and accidentally kill a relative? As in, this happens like a statistically significant amount of times. That's with guns. Guns which we acknowledge don't have high risk of third-party damage. If you think that it's like a fantasy that people like having canisters of fucking nerve gas around their house or white phosphorus around their house won't lead to horrific outcomes, horrific death that you can't even imagine the agony on, you're just living in a fantasy land. But I mean, what's new? This entire conversation has been taking place in a fantasy land. Mostly of Tyler's making, let's be real.
Okay, I'm going to let Bastiat go, because I did say
hold on.
Go.
They were just talking to me. Shouldn't I be able to respond?
Okay, that's fair. Tyler?
Okay, so a couple of things. So for one, bioweapons were outlawed globally in like the 70s. So there are no bioweapons. Second, when you're discussing things like phosphorus gas or bombs or anything that has some sort of kill radius outside of just like pinpointed accuracy like a gun would have, then having a regulation I am fine with, right?
Okay,
That
so
doesn't
you're
go against
walking
it.
back
Hold
your
on,
position.
that's not walking it back. You don't understand the difference between going against the Second Amendment
You're
and just
literally walking
regulation.
back your position.
Oh my God, bro. If there is
Just
a
watch
regulation,
the VOD, folks.
if there is a regulation, or if you have a bomb, if you walked around with a bomb, right, that could go off, that could harm more people than just the person that you are trying to, like if someone was robbing you and you had to shoot them, then I am absolutely okay with having a regulation that stops walking around with bombs in public. That has nothing to do with obtaining these weapons and having them on my fucking property. Now, that being said, if you had something like phosphorus
I just
gas,
talked about that.
hold on. If you have something that is like phosphorus gas, which is a chemical weapon, I would have to look at what is the range, what's like the kill radius of phosphorus gas, and whatever that kill radius may be, then you would need to have either property to where it can't exceed that. Now, if you can't have property to where you could, if you couldn't have property that could contain said weapon, then no, you should not be able or permitted to own it because you're going to kill other innocent people or likely to kill other innocent people. So
you're building gun control from the bottom up right now without realizing it.
Can I be clear? Because people are telling me
it's not gun control.
DemonMama, is bro a word you're fine with or no?
Oh, I mean, I don't really appreciate it. I know what. I mean, let's be real. We know what's going on with that.
Okay,
but,
I just wanted. I don't
not.
know. I just don't know because some people don't know about dude and bro because they're words.
Yeah, I mean,
usually
the way I tell people is that if I know you and I'm comfortable with you and you call me dude, that's fine. I don't like to be called bro because I'm not a bro and I'm certainly not this person's bro. But yeah, I know exactly. We all know what's going on there, but it's all right. I'm fine about it. Just since you're asking, I'll tell you what I actually feel about it.
Okay.
What is gun control? What is gun control?
Can I just be clear though? Let's just go by everybody's names from now on. Is that cool with everybody?
Sure. Demon, what is gun control?
That's DemonMama, but yes. Gun control is a set of regulations that the government puts on certain types of weapons, which we categorize as a gun. A gun is usually a piece of an alloy that we form into a thing that can fire a piece of ammunition out of the chamber. And control is when we give a government authority to make rules about how many of those you can own. And when we started this conversation, you were very gung-ho about your position. But there's two major problems. The first of which is that I've already, and you weren't listening, so I understand it can be a little hard to follow big ideas. But when you're logically fallacious, I know, hold on a second, calm down. When I talked about how weapons, even stored on somebody's personal property, can be very, very dangerous, like biological weapons, which apparently you don't believe exist, which is hilarious. But also chemical weapons, all kinds of. But you would be against that, wouldn't you?
If the government, has agreed,
yeah,
if the government, well, hold on, you're asking me a question. You're asking me a question. I'm not backpedaling. So I'm answering your question, bro. Are you actually trying to have a discussion, or are you just trying to look like an asshole?
Wait a second. It was my turn.
You asked me a question.
It was my turn. He interrupted because he got
Demon asked me a question.
Okay. So
he asked me a question.
I can't let this go on. I actually can't because the timer went off. The timer went off 10 minutes ago. Right. So I've been letting this go on, and Bastiat was supposed to get a time to speak, and Bastiat hasn't got time to speak. So I just gotta shove it to Bastiat. I have to.
Okay.
Sorry. If I don't, then nobody's gonna get time to speak.
It's hard to see the little hands. Yeah. My bad.
So, are you calling my hands little?
Yeah, like Donald Trump little.
Holy moly. Jeez Louise. I'm just trying to be as charitable as fucking possible with these insane takes. Are you going to tell me I got fucking tiny hands? Jeez Louise. Sad. Many such cases. Okay. Look, there are a couple things that, first of all, I don't get. First of all, Sean, what you said about governments and they should have powers that others have, like that doesn't make sense. That's the purpose of government, is to give government the monopoly on violence. Like if government couldn't have powers that otherwise people have, like government couldn't have any special powers, it would have no purpose. Like the purpose of government is to take on that monopoly of violence so that it can enforce law. And we install these governments presumably because we think they are better than the alternative. I also happen to believe that they would exist irrespective of what we want anyway, as human history seems to suggest. But either way, at least when we think about it, that's the purpose, is to establish a monopoly of violence and enforce law, not to have not to have like no greater right than we do. So yeah, governments certainly have powers more than people. That's more than the individual. That is indeed their purpose for being. As far as weapons, though, I don't understand your point, Tyler, about property and how you are tying an amount of property to a weapon. We already talked about this a little bit with nuclear weapons. It seems very arbitrary, though, the way you're exercising it, particularly when we think about other weapons, like say grenades or tanks, to tie this to a certain kind of property restriction. Wait, let me finish this point, and then I'll let you go. But I want to get this all out. I don't understand how you could ever make any kind of determination as to you having enough property to therefore be able to responsibly use a weapon. It also seems like a very strange way to limit certain people from having weapons. It seems like basically an income restriction tied to a type of weapon. And if we're talking about property and income restrictions, at a certain point, you might wonder whether this starts to tie down to guns. And this gets to something that I think I have perhaps said that has perhaps contributed to some of the muddy nature of this debate, which is this. I was talking about weapons with high risks of third-party harm. And while I think that's a neat way to differentiate explosives, at the end of the day, it is also quite true that guns, as they exist, have a high risk of third-party harms. And it's not even very spooky guns, really. It's not even assault rifles. Handguns are responsible for the overwhelming majority of deaths related to guns in the United States. I've got a source here for anybody who's curious. It's massive. It's actually very surprising. In some states, it's almost all the gun deaths are handguns. Some states it's a little different. But in any event, I mean, so it does kind of muddy the gun debate a little bit. But ultimately, what you've said, Tyler and Sean, in terms of gun control, it seems like DemonMama had a point that you were, in particular, Tyler, seeking a sort of backhanded property restriction form of gun control that, even for a neoliberal show like me, seems like a very strange way to limit people to certain types of weapons based on income.
Yeah. Okay. So let me respond to that. So I don't really see how that is. Well, he was talking.
I know, but after that, we have to go to it. And I just want to be clear that
I will concede if Sean needs to talk.
I just want to be clear. You said he again.
To who?
To me, Sean.
To Bastiat.
Yeah. I don't think earlier. No, earlier. I was listening. I was told multiple times in chat. So I just want to be clear.
I wasn't even talking about Demon.
No, earlier. No, I was listening very closer. I just want to be very clear that any more of that, and there's not much more I can do to keep you on, man. I'm sorry, but
okay. I'm going to be very clear with this. So for one, it is going to be increasingly difficult for me to look at somebody who I believe, and I understand that they don't believe, that they are a male, and for me to just immediately turn this off and say, oh, okay, well, my brain now recognizes to refer to them as what they want to be called. Now, that being said, I am not going out of my way to do this. If I am doing that, which I've tried multiple times just to say demon over and over so that I stay away from gender-specific pronouns. But if something happens to slip by, then I'm sorry, either you could deal with it or you can kick me off. I don't really give a shit. So I'm fine with that. You could kick me. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Next round. Wonderful.
Can I respond to Bastiat right quick?
Sure. Yep. Next round.
So I was just stating the philosophical underpinnings that are related to what Tyler was saying. And to your point that government has a monopoly on force, but if you think about it philosophically, they have the right to protect property and life, which you as an individual do. So you're just granting that to the government because it's more efficient to do that. And yes, I don't know why you're doing this. Yes, you have the right to defend your life from an attacker.
Yeah.
You have the right to defend your property from an attacker. Sure. We institute a government because it's way more convenient to have a central authority with a monopoly on force for a civilization than to leave it to every individual to fight it out, because we have different skill levels in our combat and blah, blah, blah. So that's the philosophy that he was going with. I was just trying to express.
Yeah, I get that
position.
I get that point, kind of. I guess the thing is, I would be hesitant to reduce everything to that. I suppose that's certainly at least one view of government, though, that it basically, that's actually a pretty good point. I wonder if I'd have to think about it for a minute, but I guess if you're saying that, it still feels like there are things that government does that are unique in the sense of the way that it can enforce law. Well, no, actually, because you could engage in self-defense of somebody else's, as Destiny has made the point many times, perhaps to his financial detriment. You can engage in defense of others, property and person too. So actually, okay, I see what you mean, Sean. That point makes sense.
But that was the philosophical.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That that everything government does is basically defensive people or defensive property
Right.
if
Or stuff that
if you work it back far enough.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I get that. The reason, I guess, that's hard because I'm thinking about like pollution, for example. But ultimately, yeah, I suppose the alternative, if we didn't have pollution laws, would be everybody who gets pollution stains on their shirt would have a moral right to attack the people emitting the pollution. So therefore, yeah, okay, I see what you mean. All right, that makes sense. Never mind. I understand.
I mean, I do
appreciate you
think
explaining
pollution
that.
has some interesting parallels to the entire gun control debate, which I'm really glad that we can actually talk about actual gun control and not whatever that was, because I do think there's some interesting discussions to be had as far as how far you go with gun control. For example, one thing that I actually do become concerned about is, though I believe in reasonable gun control, I think there is a meaningful risk at doing things like doing mental health checks. And a lot of people, that's the first thing they think of is, oh yeah, we should have a mental health check. But keep in mind that 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, anybody who is trans would have been considered definitively mentally ill, which seems a little bad because some of the most responsible gun owners I've ever known are trans people, and people who actually know about their guns and don't just sort of tote them around. It's very weird that we would have a situation like that. So I do have actual concerns about certain aspects of gun control and how they can be weaponized against marginalized people. But it's always very hard to have that conversation. But yeah, like with regard to, I know earlier there was a question about what I would propose for like gun control rules. I think most of the restrictions that we should have is stuff like this. All weapons should be sold alongside safety equipment. So if you're buying a weapon, you have to buy safety equipment with it. And the reason being is that safety equipment, we have a lot of evidence that shows that safety equipment like gun locks, gun safes, etc., are really effective at reducing accidental discharge, which is one of the ways that people die. Another thing that you can do is you can close loopholes that allow people to get them under the table. You can close loopholes on selling independent uppers and lowers. I think I can't remember which one it is that's restricted. Only one is restricted. So what tends to happen is that people will buy from third-party sellers a whole bunch of pieces of an automatic weapon that are legal in and of themselves, but they're not allowed to buy the upper. I think it is. The upper is the part that you can't buy. And then they will find a way to illegally, on the down low, obtain just the upper, which as it turns out is a lot easier to smuggle than an entire gun. But you can legally buy all of the other pieces, just not that one. But you don't need to tell anybody that you buy that piece. So stuff like that, putting restrictions on that would be pretty reasonable so that you could say, hey, maybe we shouldn't have lots of stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm confused on what you're saying about buying the pieces to assemble an automatic weapon, because if you modify a semi-automatic weapon and make it an automatic weapon, all you have to do is inform the ATF. Like you don't have to there's,
I
that's
think that
not
depends on the
illegal
state.
on its own.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that depends on the state because there are some states that have
law.
Wait, you're saying that you can turn
but states can put more restrictions on guns than So there are, and I happen again, I it's been a while since I've brushed up on state by state gun legislation. I used to be really super into guns. Haven't been for a few years just because of life circumstances. But there are some states that do allow you to modify weaponry. I know that of course, Knob Creek, the big gun festival is one of the famous ones where people show off their modified ones, and you do have to notify, but there are also a lot of states that ban them outright. However, one of the things that, again, this loophole that I know this from personal experience. I used to do writing, and a company that did this sort of stuff hired me, and interestingly, I conscientiously objected to keep writing for them because I thought it was very weird that they were essentially helping create a black market for modified assault weapons, or not assault weapons, automatic weapons. It's the wrong word. Automatic weapons in states where those are outlawed. I never wanted to support that. So yeah, I told my boss, no, I'm not going to write for that company. But yeah.
That is quite interesting, actually. I'd heard about bump stocks, and I know that automatic weapons purchased before a certain, I think 1986, there's some different rules with, just grandfathered in, like so many other kind of old laws provide for grandfathering. But I didn't know about the modification kits, which seems like a strange and inconsistent loophole. I looked that up, and that does seem to be true. So,
yeah,
wow,
you can even find there's all kinds of spun up.
So I guess so. I want to stop this here for a second because we have passed the 11 p.m. and I want to make it clear that now this is the last about 5 minutes of the show, and you guys are the last 3. instead of doing it the way where like, hey, the judges decide, how about we do a poll combined with judge voting so the judges can look at what the people said. I'm bending a little bit because I saw how much people just hated private judge votes. And tell people what you would debate Vosh about. Convince them why you should debate Vosh, why you should win to go debate him. I'm going to start with Bastiat.
Oh, I don't know. If you want to hear more about sucking dicks and coconuts and do socialism round 2, that'd be fun. Ultimately, while I think that folks listening, all memes aside, look, I totally understand wanting to, get somebody new. So I totally wouldn't hold it against somebody for that. What I would say is that if you enjoyed a little bit of what we did, and that wasn't my best performance. It wasn't my favorite job I've ever done. I would like to ask him a little bit more about what he really means by socialism, because the second half of the debate kind of seemed like he seemed to me like kind of a social democrat rather than a socialist. I'd like to press a little bit more on what it is that separates him from that, like where that socialism really comes into play and what that would look like. So I'd like to do that again a little better this time. But that being said, at the same time, I totally understand wanting to see somebody new, but that's probably what I would do. I think a better version of the first one. And, we could maybe do some foreign policy too. I know that's something that he had a big debate about recently, but I imagine that as somebody who is a little more pro-American intervention, pro-America generally, that's, we'd probably have some bust up there. So that'd be my thought. Socialism round 2, and maybe talk about foreign policy too. So that's a thought.
Okay. DemonMama?
Yeah, I actually have a couple of options. The first one I would love to talk to Vosh about is veganism. I would love to have a conversation with Vosh because Vosh and I have kind of similar positions, but with a couple of core differences. And I have a really interesting conversation I'd love to have with Vosh about veganism. Secondly, is about neopronouns. People have a whole lot of opinions about neopronouns these days. And sometimes I've noticed that Vosh does downplay the value and the importance of respecting neopronouns. I would love to have that conversation. And third, gun control. Because lately, I've been noticing that Vosh has been a little back and forth on what his position on gun control is. And I think we could actually have a super good conversation as somebody who grew up embedded in gun culture, was literally a junior NRA member when I was younger, grew up around guns, fired guns all the time for recreation, often in not very safe ways, I will say, when I was younger. But I know a lot about guns, been around guns a lot, and I would love to be able to challenge Vosh on some of his positions on gun control.
Okay, and Sean?
Yeah, so I've already debated Bosch, and I didn't know that was the prize, I'll put in quotes, for doing this. I just came on because I was invited like a couple hours ago, like started yesterday. But I mean, if you want me to debate him on something, my strengths are in the individual criminal cases that catch a lot of headlines. You want to do Kyle Rittenhouse, it's not going to end well for him based on what I've seen or anything like that. If you're interested in seeing another debate between me and him, for those of you who saw the first one, that's up to you. But yeah, I was just here because it was fun and I was invited. So,
There you go.
I'll stay on topic though.
What's that?
The poll is in chat. Oh. You guys can vote. Let's see who wins it. So what did you guys think of the first ever Hippy Dippy Rumble?
I wasn't here for the first one. I actually wish I could have talked to shoeonhead because she has blocked me on twitter.com, and that makes it very hard for me to operate on twitter.com because so many people retweet and like her stuff, and I can't see it. So I really wish I could have got a chance to talk with shoeonhead to ask about that. But that being said, this was pretty fun. I know I missed the first half of it, but I just want to say thanks for the invite, DemonMama. It was always good to talk with you. And Sean, I don't think we've ever talked before, but I hope we can do it again sometime. And, it'd be fun. So, and James, again, freaking Chad moderator over here. I mean, not to keep kissing ass here, but I've never seen you work before.
That's kind of you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, not the first time I've had a weaselly, spineless, cowardly, conservative try and do subtle, misgendery, disrespectful stuff. It's very obvious. I think they think they're being really sneaky and whatnot. I do appreciate you coming down on that. I will say that, again, I've done this a million times. It happens in nearly every conversation I have with conservatives. They really, really don't like trans people these days. In fact, many conservative channels are dumping those out. So be aware of that. I do appreciate people being willing to call that out. Although, for the record, I did not have any say in this person being removed. But I do think that if I'm completely honest, that type of behavior does make a toxic environment. It's pretty terrible. But other than that, I mean, it's been really fun. This has been one of the spiciest panels I think I've ever been on in my entire life. I mean, God, this was a hell of a ride. And I don't know, it makes me very excited for the future of the Hippy Dippy Rumble.
Yeah, Dylan, seriously, you must have done a lot of work getting this going. I mean, you had so many big names and just interesting people. So,
yeah, I
how long did you take to? How long did it take to organize all
I
this?
started working on the concept about 6 months ago, and I started the official organizing about 2 months ago.
Right on. Congrats.
Yeah. They asked me yesterday. I had fun. I enjoyed it. In hindsight, I wish I could have popped in like an hour late. I've been here the whole 3 hours. I'm tired. I'm cranky, and I want to eat something. So there's that. But if you follow me on Twitter, though, I'm at IamSean90. I'll follow anybody back on the panel that I've never heard of before because it would be interesting to follow you. But you probably won't like my content because I am a more right-leaning YouTuber, so I understand that. But everybody... I try to be cordial, you fight back a little bit when you feel like you're getting attacked, but like not go with the low blows as much as possible. And I enjoyed it. So that's how I felt about it.
Okay. Let me check the results. It seems that the people have voted for DemonMama over Bastiat and Sean. Now let's go see if the judges agree after looking at that data. Okay. It seems... So I'm just waiting for the last person to send their vote.
Oh, okay. I thought this was a dramatic pause. It was very, Congrats on winning the poll, DemonMama.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. It was great. It was great arguing alongside you.
Okay. And the winner of the first ever Hippy Dippy Roundtable Royal Rumble is DemonMama.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you all so much for voting for me. I did my work. I did my homework. I did my fucking exercises. Coming in with the demon energy. Thank you so much. And am I allowed to plug in?
Of course you are.
Yes. Please join my Discord, discord.gg/DemonMama. That's the best way to get up with my notifications when I'm going live and doing cool stuff, which is a lot these days. We just began season 2 with our amazing backdrop. And you can also find all of my social links if you were really thrilled by my performance. You can come hang out with us at demonmama.com/live. We have a giant chat there. You can usually stream on YouTube, but now I'm doing dual stream, which is super fun. And yeah, we would love to have you. We have an absolutely incredible Discord community, and I stream long, powerful streams about politics and life. So thank you all very much. It was an honor competing with all of you.
Wonderful. And you will be facing Vosh next Friday for the championship.
I also want to take a moment to thank all of you degenerate late voters who just put me over the top after the vote stopped. Thanks for that. Like many left-leaning liberal type people, you couldn't get out of bed to vote in time. So hey, thank you so much for that. I'm just teasing. That was pretty funny though.
I appreciate you all tuning in to tonight's show, and I appreciate you guys all sticking in for the long haul. I know this was a very, very, very long show, but I really do appreciate it, everybody.
I want to take a chance to quick say, folks, we are super thrilled to collaborate with Dylan Burns. Dylan is linked in the description as well as all of the guests. So I want you, if you want to hear more, folks, please do check out those links of all of the guests, including Dylan. And that way you can hear more. And that includes if you're listening to the podcast, as we also put guest links in the podcast description now, too. So thanks so much to Dylan and the guests. It's been a true pleasure tonight. It's been really fun.
Wonderful.
And I think everybody can agree. Congratulations, DemonMama, on winning the first Hippy Dippy Royal Rumble. Indeed, that was quite a matchup of people. So enjoy your victory and good luck in the debate.
Awesome. If any of you want to ask me questions or argue with me, I always do Q&A afterwards. So feel free to come by my stream if you want to.
Great. And I also want to say you can find Modern Day Debates on YouTube, spelled exactly how I said it. I'd really appreciate it if you gave them a look out too, because they helped me get a lot of guests last second, like Sean, for example. Sean, anything you want to say?
Yeah, find me on YouTube, Actual Justice Warrior, on Twitter as @IamSean90, spelled the old-fashioned Irish way. Thank you guys for having me on, Dylan and James. collaborative effort and all that. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. You all have a blessed day. Even though, Sean, thank you for coming on. Even if you kind of steamrolled the skeleton the whole time, never giving me a single time to talk, that was pretty wrong. Anyway, thank you all. I'm going to send you over to certain somebody who's here, who, I mean, you know, kind of deserves it. You all have a blessed day.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. All right. That's it. We go home now?
You can go home.
Yeah.
Wonderful.